To the kingdom, Prince Adrien was a hopeless, spoiled piglet, trapped inside a tragically jiggly absolute unit of a body. But surviving a hilariously pathetic near-death experience flipped a switch. Kissing his royal tantrums goodbye, he vowed a legendary glow-up. Defying a vessel with zero magical talent, this madman actually forced a mana heart to awaken. He swung iron until his chubby hands bled. Meanwhile, his snobby Uncle Vale mercilessly roasted him, calling him a completely unsalvageable failure. But our royal underdog refused to submit. Pushed to the absolute limit, Adrien slammed down an insanely reckless bet. 6 months, that was all he needed to shatter expectations and force that arrogant uncle to eat dirt. Cue the ultimate training montage. His days became a hellish cycle of brutal workouts, screaming muscles, and non-stop combat. Day by grueling day, he forged his jelly-like physique into pure steel. Slowly, the kingdom's biggest laughingstock vanished into absolute myth. Judgment Day finally arrived. Facing off, Uncle Vale smugly declared he would only need a single aura ring to crush his nephew. The duel sparked. At first, Vale danced around the heavy strikes arrogantly, waiting for the prince to unleash his true strength. Boom! Adrien ignited his martial spirit through his racing mana heart, violently forcing out a terrifying sliver of legendary dragon-slaying aura. Though his mortal vessel screamed in agony, his entire presence completely evolved. An explosive shockwave erupted. The heavy strikes became so absurdly overwhelming that Uncle Vale started sweating just trying to block. Remember that arrogant promise about using only one measly aura ring? Well, Adrien's ultimate strike was so devastatingly brutal, Vale panicked and ignited all 4 rings. Even worse, his beloved sword snapped right in half. The impact completely blew the prince away, but the crucial plot twist, Uncle Vale actually broke his own golden rule. He successfully forced a 4-ring master to sweat and go entirely all out. By the sacred laws of their bet, the underdog prince claimed absolute victory. Plot twist, that is not the original prince. This whole absurd comedy stars our main character literally reincarnated as a legendary freaking sword who spent centuries carrying total scrubs and turning them into god-tier heroes. During those wild centuries, he stumbled upon a ragged kid who would eventually become his ultimate battle brother. Hailing from an absolutely nowhere dirt-poor village, this legendary kid was named Leonberg. Gripped in Leonberg's hands, this chaotic duo tore through the continent, casually achieving mythic milestones normal mortals could never reach. They conquered endless battlefields, ultimately throwing down against a terrifyingly colossal nightmare-fueled gray dragon. The monstrous lizard completely crushed Leonberg at first, but gripping his loyal sword friend, he dramatically rose from the ashes, erupting with a godlike aura. Flashing an absolutely psychotic grin, he called his blade his true brother, launching himself right at the beast with a world-shattering strike. Vaulting into the sky, Leonberg unleashed devastating slashes, spectacularly chopping the mythic beast down to size. Thanks to that epic dragon-slaying carry, Leonberg casually crowned himself the kingdom's brand new ruler. To honor that mythic legacy, the legendary blade Gruhorn was treated as a sacred relic passed down through the royal bloodline. Fast forward a few centuries, Gruhorn is enjoying beauty sleep until some idiot violently shakes him awake. His eyes snap open to find a hilariously jiggly, arrogant meatball, grabbing his hilt, loudly declaring himself the blade's brand new master. Surprise, this entitled dumpling is the royal prince. He totally ignores the panicking guards, screaming that only the official king can touch sacred relics. The legendary sword is absolutely flabbergasted. He refuses to believe this clumsy, rejected piglet swinging him around actually holds royal blood. Triggering his system authority, Gruhorn aggressively opens the brat's status window to check his actual power levels. Holy garbage stats. The boy is Adrien Leonberg, possessing tragically pathetic numbers. Still, that iconic last name confirms this dimwit descended from his glorious battle brother. Gruhorn's mind is totally blown. How did the mighty bloodline of the Sword Saint devolve into someone with the combat power of a wet noodle? Meanwhile, Adrien starts delusionally yapping about how the snobby nobles will grovel at his feet once he masters the holy blade. Squealing like a total maniac, Adrien aggressively commands the mythic sword to instantly surrender its legendary power. Gruhorn strictly refuses to buff such a trash-tier vessel, yet the stubborn prince keeps wildly swinging him while guards frantically beg for peace. The terrified guards frantically remind the brat that drawing naked steel indoors is a massive royal taboo. But logic only triggers his rage. He hilariously chases the poor guards in circles, screeching threats about executing everyone in sight. While showing off like a complete clown, gravity brutally betrays him. He trips over his own feet and miraculously impales his belly onto the legendary blade. Absolute chaos erupts. The terrified staff completely loses their minds, screaming his royal name and praying for a magical miracle. But it is game over. The arrogant fool is bleeding out with a massive sword lodged inside him. A panicked maid frantically sprints away, desperately hoping to summon the royal physician for a miraculous save. Gruhorn violently panics as his vision fades to absolute black, all thanks to this brat's masterpiece of sheer stupidity. Let us be brutally honest. Adrien was a talentless, arrogant bully with the bottomless greed of a wild boar, the ultimate walking disaster for the entire kingdom. The juicy gossip of the prince getting stabbed spreads through the kingdom faster than wildfire. Miraculously, the brat survived the pointy end of a blade. Even weirder, the maids are totally shocked he is not throwing his usual epic tantrums. Naturally, the maids figure the royal brat is just laying low out of pure terror. They are betting hard cash that his inner tyrant will make a grand comeback any second now. Plot twist: the original Adrien kicked the bucket and the legendary sword Gruhorn hijacked his fleshy vessel. Later, while brooding indoors, a maid suddenly announces the king is paying a visit. The new Adrien basically snorts, completely brushing her off since his so-called royal father completely ghosted his near-death experience. Panicking, the maid frantically shushes him, warning that the terrifyingly sharp-eared royal knights are lurking right around the corner. Suddenly, a looming knight dismisses the trembling maid, flatly stating the king expects absolutely zero greatness from this royal disappointment anyway. Adrien, meanwhile, has absolutely zero clue who this giant armored dude is. He just awkwardly glares at him like a confused puppy, finally forcing the irritated knight to break the silence. The stern knight reminds Adrien of their sacred master and student bond, demanding he drop the amnesia act right this instant. Cue the lightbulb moment. This intimidating guy is actually the original prince's teacher. Instead of playing it cool, our fake prince doubles down and talks back with maximum sass. Right on cue, the heavy royal trumpets blare. A ridiculously intimidating man marches forward. The king has officially entered the chat. Gruhorn honestly thought the mighty Leonberg bloodline had completely lost its juice over the centuries. Spoiler alert, he was dead wrong. His Majesty immediately starts roasting Adrien, furious that dodging the Grim Reaper didn't cure his trash personality. Stepping in, the loyal knight awkwardly whispers that the prince's brain might have actually rebooted with missing files. They totally buy this convenient excuse, instantly slamming the panic button to summon the top royal doctor. The frantic physician pokes and prods at our boy, only to nervously report that the prince's biological hardware is completely normal. However, he cautiously suggests this convenient amnesia might just be a temporary glitch caused by massive psychological trauma. The king absolutely scoffs at the absurd idea of his son suffering genuine brain damage. He bitterly complains about the insanely convenient timing. An epic memory wipe essentially hits the ultimate reset button on all his past royal screw-ups. His Majesty is fuming, absolutely raging that this little punk gets a free pass instead of drowning in well-deserved guilt. The royal tantrum continues until the master humbly begs for peace. That is exactly when our reincarnated hero realizes his social credit score is literally zero. He realizes with utter dread that instead of royal privilege, he is basically going to be treated like a stray dog. How colossally did the original prince screw up to earn this much universal hatred? While sweating bullets over his tragic new life, he is suddenly tackled into a bone-crushing hug by the weeping queen. Showering him with affection, she promises his memories will reboot soon. Honestly, she insists it does not even matter if he forgets his spicy past anyway. This emotional mother is just purely ecstatic that her precious boy finally woke up. Squishing his chubby cheeks, she genuinely calls him the most handsome boy alive, sobbing over how completely shattered she would have been if he had died. Talk about an awkward reality check. She has zero clue her real son is gone, replaced by a magical talking sword driving a meat suit. After drowning him in suffocating motherly love, she finally wipes her tears and leaves, promising a dramatic return visit later. Left alone in the suffocating silence, our legendary sword-turned boy sits back to process this absolute chaotic madness. The irony hurts. He seriously cannot believe he accidentally soul-crushed one of the precious royal descendants he was originally forged to protect. Since the universe hit him with this massive Uno reverse card, Gruhorn decides he just has to speedrun this tragic prince's life with maximum effort. From an overpowered legendary weapon to the ultimate royal janitor cleaning up his previous owner's messy life. Challenge accepted. He firmly believes he can completely fix this talentless, flabby, physical disaster of a body. Running on pure ego and centuries of epic battle experience, he smirks, thinking a magical glow-up in Adrien's pathetic body will be an absolute piece of cake. Step 1 of the royal glow-up. Forging a glorious mana heart, he takes a dramatic deep breath, intensely pulling magical energy straight into his core. But cue the error screen. His jaw instantly drops as the precious mana completely evaporates, violently rejected by his pathetic new hardware. Throwing a mental tantrum, he aggressively refuses this harsh reality. He spams the technique over and over again, until his mana bar hits rock bottom. Face-planting into the cold floor in sheer agonizing frustration, he angrily curses whatever cursed garbage tier body the universe trapped him inside. Groaning like a deflating balloon, he rants that back in his legendary prime he could have easily brute-forced mana through a trash body like this in seconds. Right in the middle of his pathetic floor-pouting session, a maid politely interrupts, presenting a fancy restorative potion sent straight from Mommy Dearest. Flashing a smile, the maid warns, The magical sludge tastes absolutely foul, but cheerfully insists drinking it will level up his health. The poor maid shakes like a leaf. She half expects Adrien to smash the bowl right into her face, just like his past notorious tantrums. But plot twist, our reincarnated sword is absolutely captivated by this mysterious brew. His spiritual senses tingle. That dark liquid is practically overflowing with pure, unadulterated mana. Chug chug chug, he snatches the bowl and downs it all in one heroic gulp, leaving the terrified servant completely flabbergasted. He dismisses the stunned maid with a casual wave. She quickly bows and scrambles out the door before his mood turns sour. Time for round 2 of Mana Heart creation. To his absolute delight, that magic tea actually kickstarts the spiritual awakening. The only catch: the gathered aura is pitifully tiny. We are talking poof gone in 24 hours if left alone. Wait, come back, he yells down the hall, demanding endless refills of that magical brew. Fast forward through several agonizing days of chugging tea, our determined hero finally constructs his precious Mana Heart. Zero hesitation. He recklessly slams that raw energy straight into his core. He even smirks, cockily bragging to absolutely nobody about his countless legendary achievements back in his glorious sword days. Boom, agony explodes through his veins like a ticking time bomb. His insides practically melt as he collapses to his knees. Newsflash to our former weapon, having fragile human organs actually hurts like crazy. But blacking out is not an option. If he faints now, a catastrophic mana backlash will literally fry his entire nervous system. Sweating bullets and shaking violently, Adrien bites his lip and forces his wavering mind to lock in. He mentally wrestles the raging storm of wild energy, desperately dragging the rebellious power back into its proper circulation path. Using centuries of martial wisdom, he carefully weaves the chaotic energy into his chest. Boom, the legendary foundation is finally set. He puffs out his chest, overflowing with supreme smugness. He finally forged a custom Mana Heart designed solely for his own survival. But mid-victory dance ding, a glowing blue system screen manifests out of thin air, officially congratulating him on his miraculous achievement. His jaw drops to the floor. This interface is the exact same one he used to aggressively spam his wielders with back when he was a literal blade. Why on earth is his old operating system booting up for a weak human body? Ding. The glowing text flickers, boldly declaring that his connection to the primordial origin is restoring. But reality hits hard. Error messages flood his vision bluntly, warning him that the spiritual link is complete garbage and his legendary admin privileges are locked out. His ultimate judgment skill, nerfed to the ground. Now he can barely scan the combat potential of scrubs, who are exactly at or below his own pathetic level. On top of that, his glorious third eye ability is restricted to trial mode, basically just acting like a decent pair of magical glasses. Same goes for his third ear skill. It is painfully limited, merely upgrading his hearing to eavesdrop on nearby whispers. He tests the system immediately. His blurry vision suddenly snaps into ultra-high definition, and he actually catches the gossiping maids whispering outside the thick wooden doors. But right before the juicy drama drops, ding, system alert, his pathetic mana reserves hit rock bottom and completely run dry. Crash. His magical admin privileges are brutally shut down in an instant. The painful truth smacks him in the face. Extremely limited means he is a total weakling now, completely stripped of his overwhelming divine sword senses. Still, by squeezing every last drop of his tiny aura, he manages to keep a faint audio feed from the hallway alive. His eyesight also retains a slight high-definition upgrade. Sure, this human vessel is incredibly trashy right now, but once he grinds his mana pool, he will absolutely reclaim his legendary status. Grumble. His mortal stomach violently interrupts his villainous monologue. He screams for a feast, and the panicked maids promise an immediate royal buffet. Chewing on reality, Adrien decides priority number 1 is to stop acting like an inanimate object and start surviving like a real human. Later, the queen graces his room with a radiant smile. She is over the moon that her previously rebellious son actually gulped down all her bitter medicine. In her hopeful eyes, her precious boy has finally decided to embrace a healthy lifestyle. But standing right beside her is an absolute mountain of an intimidating man. When Adrien draws a blank on his name, the menacing guest sighs, confirming the amnesia rumors. Plot twist, this terrifyingly intense warrior is actually the queen's own flesh and blood. Adrien connects the dots as his mother sweetly calls the giant her brother, desperately begging him to whip her useless son into shape. The absolute savage practically roasts his nephew alive, telling the queen to celebrate the memory loss, since the kid was a total failure anyway. Yeah, the murderous aura is obvious. This grumpy uncle absolutely despises his guts. The uncle scoffs, loudly declaring that the absolute maximum he can achieve is melting off Adrien's pathetic baby fat. He brutally shatters any delusions of creating a legendary knight. Meeting those predatory, unblinking eyes, a cold sweat runs down Adrien's back. Oh boy, he is totally doomed. Bam! Dragged straight to the dusty training grounds, the Spartan instructor lays down the law. From this second forward, he practically owns Adrien's soul. Want water? Ask. Need oxygen? Beg. The tyrant makes it crystal clear that all royal privileges have been permanently tossed into the garbage bin, but a tiny carrot dangles at the end of the stick. If Adrien survives this hellish boot camp, he might just earn a single crumb of their family's legendary secret swordsmanship. Adrien was absolutely mortified. What a completely pathetic downgrade. Marching up to his uncle with blazing determination, he boldly proposed a high-stakes gamble. "Give me just 6 months," he declared. "I'll force you to acknowledge my absolute greatness. If I fail, I'll be your obedient servant, but when I inevitably win, you absolutely owe me one grand wish." Smirking, the older man accepted the deal, viewing Adrien as nothing but a hilarious circus act. But reality hit hard soon after. He talked a massive game, yet his tragically out-of-shape body was his own worst enemy. The brilliant master plan channeled his internal mana to literally melt away this ridiculous layer of blubber. Mid-workout, his uncle suddenly grabbed him by the collar, panic written across his face. "Did you just forge a mana heart?" Pushing out his chest, Adrien bragged. "Sure did. Just whipped it up. Are you already trembling in fear about our little bet?" But the mood instantly crashed. His uncle's voice dripped with exasperated dread. "What the hell were you thinking, creating a garbage mana heart? Who on earth taught you that outdated trash? Every single thing you just did is completely and utterly wrong." Adrien stood there blinking like an idiot. Finally, his uncle barked. "A mana heart is a painfully primitive technique. Only third-rate trash-tier mercenaries use that." A horrifying cold chill snaked down Adrien's spine. Completely and totally lost, Adrien glared back. "What kind of absolute nonsense are you spouting right now?" Sighing at his nephew's sheer ignorance, the older man didn't bother explaining. "Just shut up and watch closely." Brilliant aura instantly flared around his uncle's hand, taking the shocking, flawless shape of a luminous ring. "These are mana chains," he explained. "They easily shatter a mana heart's pathetic sword energy." He immediately crushed the energy to prove his point. "It's infinitely easier and far more stable. Hell, the Eli family stubbornly clung to mana hearts and they were brutally wiped out 100 years ago. Because of that horrific inefficiency, that useless technique has been completely wiped from history." Defeated, Adrien cracked open a thick theory book. The basics: mages form circles while badass knights weave chains to hoard their mana. Moreover, a knight's absolute power ranking is strictly determined by how many chains they can weave. The hierarchy goes from single to double, triple, quad, all the way up to the legendary pentachain. Slamming the book shut, Adrien reluctantly admitted it wasn't total garbage. Then the founder's name caught his eye. Ernest Alteringen. Why did that ring a massive bell? Lightning struck. In his past life, an old comrade actually met this very Ernest. That cocky bastard claimed the title of Sword Saint, marching right up to challenge Leonberg for absolute supremacy. Adrien clearly recalled Ernest wielding bizarre, funky techniques that belonged to neither traditional swordsmanship nor basic magic. But honestly, he completely forgot how that scrub ended up. The very next morning, at training, his uncle smirked. "Read the book, realize how totally screwed you are. You've made a monumentally stupid, incredibly foolish blunder, kid." But Adrien just scoffed. "Mistake, I honestly have zero idea what you're talking about." His uncle's eyes narrowed dangerously. "Are you completely oblivious to reality or just too ridiculously stubborn to admit defeat?" Adrien chuckled darkly. "Not all mana hearts are created equal, old man. Ever heard the glorious phrase, an absolute difference in class?" The man sighed, viewing his nephew as a completely delusional idiot, just like those pathetic mercenaries cosplaying as ancient legendary heroes. Every single one of those fools died as absolute trash. None of them could ever surpass 2 measly rings. Since you're acting so incredibly special, go defeat a double chain knight. Do that, and I'll officially become your guardian, just like your mother desperately wanted. Adrien flashed a ridiculously cocky grin. "Is having you as a guardian actually a prize? Honestly, I think I'm getting scammed here." That struck a massive nerve. The man's face twisted in rage. "Did you dare question my absolute qualifications?" Completely losing his temper, devastating aura exploded from his body. "I am an elite count of this very kingdom. The supreme commander of the majestic northern army," he roared shamelessly, hyping himself up. "I am the legendary master of the Black Lancers." While he furiously flexed his violently overwhelming, suffocating aura, the nearby guards were absolutely paralyzed, trembling like pathetic leaves in a brutal hurricane. His monstrous pressure completely swallowed the entire arena. "I am a mighty man who has woven 4 spectacular rings, a quad-chain knight." Standing at the peak of his flashy display, he grandly declared his legendary name, Vale Balorhard. "A truly magnificent titan like myself is the one graciously offering to stand behind you." After finally finishing his wildly narcissistic self-praise, he glared down. "Well, am I finally worthy enough for your ridiculous standards?" Vale withdrew his crushing aura. The terrified guards immediately yanked out their swords, screaming at him to stand down. Vale smirked arrogantly, but instead of shivering in terror, Adrien fearlessly flashed a chaotic, arrogant grin right back, warning him not to chicken out later. Cut to 5 minutes later, Adrien is eating dirt, absolutely demolished. Since his pudgy body is basically paralyzed, Vale calls it a day. Adrien drags himself up, terrified he actually saw the Grim Reaper. Limping back to his room, Vale's brutal trash talk echoes in his head, claiming it would be an absolute miracle if he survived a one-chain night, let alone a double-chain monster. Bursting into his room, he spots the royal physician camping there, claiming he has been waiting. Adrien demands answers, and the old man reveals the queen dispatched him to cast top-tier healing magic on her precious son. The doc starts chanting, but Adrien shrieks like a banshee, completely rejecting the magical handout. He violently shoves the poor healer out. Healing magic would just erase his epic muscle-building gains from today's torture. Later that day, Adrien is minding his business when his snobby brother crashes the party. Adrien looks totally clueless. His guard, Carl, remembering the prince's convenient amnesia, whispers that this arrogant dude is the third prince. The third prince smirks, claiming he heard about the accident, though it is a real shame Adrien did not kick the bucket. Completely ignoring the venom, Adrien casually asks why this guy even bothered showing up. The third prince boils with rage internally. How dare this trash still act so cocky? He then drops a gossip bomb. He heard all about Adrien's suicidal bet with Vale to duel a double-chain knight. Flashing a wicked grin, the third prince steps up. How about choosing him as the opponent? Hearing this ridiculous challenge, Adrien sighs internally. Why did Libert's legendary bloodline produce such bizarre idiots? Carl quickly whispers the stats. The third prince, Jillian, is a recognized swordsmanship prodigy since childhood. Adrien scoffs at the idea, but Carl drops the heavy truth. Jillian awakened 2 mana rings at 14. He is a beast. Suddenly, a maid interrupts, dumping a mountain of fresh letters on Adrien. Adrien stares in sheer confusion. Why is he getting fan mail from nobles who treated him like garbage yesterday? Reality slaps him hard. Scanning the letters, they are all duel requests. It is basically a free legal ticket to beat up the trash prince. A villainous smirk creeps onto Adrien's face. They really think he is free experience. He orders the maid to write down every single name. Oh, he has special plans for his new punching bags. Later at the training grounds, Vale tosses a wooden sword right at Adrien. Vale orders him to pick it up. If their crazy bet is going to hold, Adrien needs at least a fraction of actual sword skills. He absolutely refuses to let this kid cry foul and blame his loss on skipping the basics. Adrien groans, bending to grab the weapon while internally cursing Vale. Could this guy not just hand it over normally? But the moment he straightens up, he screeches in pure muscular agony. Vale jumps in shock. Vale steps closer, baffled. Did the prince skip his healing magic? Adrien grunts, telling the knight he should already know the answer. Healing magic resets muscles to their default state. It completely ruins those hard-earned muscle gains. Vale is absolutely mind-blown by this insane gym bro logic, but he cannot even deny the facts. Shaking his head, Vale steps back, refusing to debate the science of bodybuilding right now. Vale commands Adrien to open his eyes wide. He is only demonstrating this technique once, so do not blink. He declares it is the kingdom's fundamental training sword, the absolute basic foundation every rookie knight must master. Vale swings his wooden blade. A magnificent, elegant aura bursts forth, scattering the very air like a crashing tidal wave. Adrien stands utterly paralyzed. He stammers, asking if this ridiculous display of power is really just basic knight training. Vale misreads the shock as disappointment. He quickly defends the art, claiming it lacks lethal sharpness because it is just a drill. But its perfect adherence to the core basics makes it the ultimate beginner style for true swordsmanship. Vale keeps rambling his lecture, but Adrien suddenly erupts into absolute unhinged laughter. Because that so-called basic style, it is the legendary Dragon Slayer art, the exact divine swordsmanship used to execute the Mad Dragon. Adrien is losing his mind. How did humanity's most overpowered world-saving technique degrade into a trivial gym routine for rookies? Vale obliviously continues, suggesting this basic form might not be enough. But Adrien cuts him off with blazing eyes. Forget other styles. This exact technique is the only one he will ever need. Gripping his hilt, Adrien perfectly mirrors the Dragon Slayer stance, memories of his past life surging through his mind. A thrilling realization hits him. The mighty Dragon Slayer technique is now entirely his to master. They're branded as pathetic trash. Without a mana, heart-channeling aura into a blade is just a complete joke. Adrien swings relentlessly, but Vale abruptly halts his blade. Vale barks that flexing his flabby arms won't generate aura. He demands Adrien remember the legendary forms he just demonstrated. Whack Vale smacks his chubby gut and wobbly legs, roaring that true swordsmanship requires perfect energy circulation. Adrien secretly nods along. Right now, his pathetic, clumsy vessel can barely mimic a bootleg version of the Dragon Slayer arts. But his eyes burn with fierce resolve. He'll prove this legendary technique isn't just ancient trash meant for the dumpster. Fueled by sheer grit, he grinds like an absolute maniac. Before long, a grueling month vanishes in a flash. Mid-swing, a glowing system prompt pops up. His hellish daily quests have finally forcefully rewritten his entire physical foundation. Ding! His embarrassing trait, morbid obesity, has miraculously upgraded to just plain old obesity. What a glorious victory. His internal furnace ignites. His sluggish metabolism is finally kicking into overdrive. The system chimes in again. Endless bone-breaking repetition has finally unlocked true muscle memory. Even better, the agonizing clumsiness debuff is gone. Now every single push-up grants massive bonus experience points. Plus, hoarding mana like a dragon has completely refined his mortal vessel into something extraordinary. A cocky grin spreads across his face. The system isn't lying. His blade dances with a lethal grace, and explosive power surges through his veins. Drunk on his own epic growth, Adrien ignores the world around him until Vale screams bloody murder. Lost in the zone, he doesn't hear a thing. Vale violently shatters his wooden blade to force a halt. Plot twist, this madman has been swinging wildly in the middle of a catastrophic thunderstorm. His palms are shredded to ribbons. Crimson blood mixes violently with the pouring rain, painting the mud red. But the real shocker is the training dummy. The poor wooden target has been absolutely vaporized into splinters. Crackling static dances across the wreckage. Vale rips into him for being an absolute lunatic during a lethal tempest. If he held a real steel blade, he'd be fried chicken right now. Adrien just stares silently at his ruined, blistered hands until the system chimes. The blue panel declares he has successfully snapped out of a legendary trance state. Yet the thrilling, godly sensation remains branded in his cells. Ding, a magnificent new skill. Hyperfocus is unlocked. Adrien chuckles like a maniac. He literally just played dodgeball with the wrath of heaven and survived. Suddenly, his physical toll catches up. His eyes roll back, but Vale grabs the exhausted fool mid-fall. Blinking away the darkness, Adrien groans. His human hardware clearly crashed because he completely ignored his own life bar limits. Back when he was a literal legendary weapon, he slaughtered demons and practically built an empire from scratch. He orchestrated epic victories, forcefully boosting the spiritual and physical stats of legendary heroes to godhood. But back then, he was just a tool. Now, as a real human, he swung that blade until his mortal core shattered. He was utterly addicted to the sweet, painful taste of raw human effort and the glorious rewards of grinding. Reality check. If he keeps acting like an unbreakable artifact, this meaty vessel will explode. He desperately needs to balance his insane soul with his frail body. Over 30 grueling days have passed since his mana core awakened, silently hoarding a massive reservoir of spiritual energy. With this hidden arsenal, breaking through to the next epic realm is finally within his grasp. Adrien inhales deeply, gathering surrounding elemental energy into his core. The system confirms his epic grind paid off. His reinforced physical shell can finally endure a much deadlier surge of magical power. Boom! His mana heart shatters its limits, violently evolving his entire biological structure in a spectacular flash. A majestic blue aura erupts around him like a raging storm. Feeling like an absolute boss, he smirks and whispers, awakening complete. He grips a hilt to test his newfound dominance. Ding! The system announces his grand promotion to the official sword learner class. The lowest tier of aura is now his to command. He proudly reflects his smirking face in the steel, ready to dominate the basics. Back at the dirt lot, Vale drops a bombshell. Spicy gossip about our boy is spreading like wildfire through the royal capital. Adrien tilts his head, completely clueless. Vale sighs, reminding the idiot about the massive, life-ruining bet he made. The instructor groans, rubbing his temples. He orders Adrien to pick a sacrificial lamb for the upcoming duel before things get violently messy. The bet completely slipped his mind, but with a sly, devilish grin, Adrien declares his target is already locked in. He admits fighting a two-chain monster right now is suicide. Better to farm some sweet experience by bullying a single-chain weakling first. Vale just shrugs at his chaotic logic. Smirking, Adrien pivots to Carl, demanding to know if his secret weapon is finally ready. Carl confirmed the trap was set perfectly. Pulling out the duel requests, Carl warned the prince. These weren't sparring partners. They were angry victims out for royal blood. Carl's sweat dropped, terrified they would assassinate him under the guise of a friendly match. With a sly smirk, Adrien revealed his trump card. The legendary Vale would be their official referee. His only rule for the legend: make sure nobody gets accidentally murdered during the training session. Days later, their very first victim marched right up to the Grand Palace gates. Enter Taylor Tyleem, the incredibly bitter second son of a perfectly average baron. Years ago, the trash prince had viciously roasted Taylor's father and older brother. Mocking their cheap banquet outfits had sparked a burning, lifelong grudge in Taylor's fragile heart. That single joke destroyed their family's face, turning them into high society's favorite laughingstock. Boiling with revenge, Taylor stomped into the arena, offering the prince an incredibly stiff, hateful bow. Adrien instantly trolled him. "Why so serious for a little playdate, buddy?" He loudly whispered to Carl, asking if this scrawny kid was actually a real knight. Taylor's blood pressure skyrocketed. The rumors were absolutely true. This prince was pure trash. His explosive killing intent leaked out uncontrollably, forcing the legendary referee to immediately intervene. Vale coldly ordered him to stand down. Taylor froze, utterly starstruck by the living legend before him. Blushing hard, Taylor bowed deeply, while Adrien joked that Vale acted more like royalty than he did. Vale ruthlessly clapped back. Maybe if your highness wasn't absolute garbage in the past. Adrien instantly zipped his lips. His dark history was the ultimate counterattack against his trolling. With formalities tossed aside, Vale yelled start. Taylor's fierce mana instantly exploded to life. Flashing a twisted grin, he mocked the prince to watch out before launching forward. Yawning at the pathetic threat level, Adrien casually roasted the boy's completely useless footwork. Clash, Adrien casually blocked the heavy strike. Taylor gasped, realizing the trash prince possessed a true mana heart. Shoving him backward with sheer force, Taylor panicked. How could a basic heart block his advanced mana chain? Activating his ultimate trolling skills, Adrien loudly asked Carl if this weakling was honestly a certified knight. He complained that the sword strike just tickled a bit, leaving Taylor completely shattered. Suddenly, a terrifying high-pitched hum vibrated from the prince's blade, freezing everyone in pure shock. Vale's eyes widened at the legendary sword resonance. Taylor violently rejected the impossible reality staring right at him. Blinded by absolute rage, Taylor unleashed a ferocious flurry of slashes, but Adrien deflected everything effortlessly. Panting desperately from the wild combo, the exhausted noble was forced to retreat. Meanwhile, the smug protagonist had easily analyzed every single weakness in his opponent's flashy style. Leveling his blade at the panting boy, Adrien smirked, telling him to chill out. Shutting his eyes, the prince awakened his dormant dragon-slaying intent. Instantly, his calm blue aura exploded into a terrifying blood-red storm. He was channeling pure, unadulterated dragon-slaying power. His legendary heart resonated perfectly with the mythical blade. The crushing atmospheric pressure shattered the roof. Taylor fell to his knees in utter disbelief. Vale's legendary instinct screamed, this was a full-blown disaster. Roaring at the prince to halt, Vale watched Adrien launch forward, wrapped in devastating bloodlust. Flashback, Adrien had literally ordered the legend to intervene if he accidentally went into murder mode. Honoring the prince's ridiculous request, Vale knew it was time for some extreme crowd control. Just as the fatal blow descended, Vale teleported in, delivering a brutal flying kick to the prince. Bam! Adrien crashed through the solid stone wall, instantly knocked out cold. Enraged guards immediately surrounded Vale with drawn swords. They frantically screamed that assaulting royalty was a straight ticket to the executioner's block. Coughing up dust, Adrien barely resurrected himself. He weakly ordered the guards down, admitting he planned the whole intervention. But he definitely didn't ask to get drop-kicked through a freaking wall. Fainting again, he later woke up safe in his massive royal bed. Checking his precious mana heart, he sighed in pure comical relief. The main character realizes Uncle Vale's aura completely eclipses a mere single-chain warrior. Thank the heavens, using that overwhelming technique left zero deadly backlash. Mid-celebration, a chill runs down his spine. Vale materializes like a ghost, questioning that goofy grin. Adrien nearly jumps out of his skin, bracing himself as Vale demands to know what kind of monstrous stunt he just pulled. Vale intensely grills him on who taught him those savage strikes. Playing it cool, Adrien claims he merely tapped into the ultimate essence of the blade. His tough uncle refuses to believe that obvious bluff. After all, how could a greenhorn who has never tasted the bitter blood of a battlefield understand the sword's true meaning? To Vale's absolute shock, his nephew's so-called essence reeks of pure, unadulterated killing intent, a deeply unsettling and completely dishonorable aura. Surprisingly, the older man admits, such darkness is an unavoidable reality of combat. Adrien drops his jaw, stunned his uncle, skipped the classic knightly lecture. Vale's intense gaze hardens as he proudly declares himself a soldier. He is no shiny knight in armor. He walks the brutal path of absolute victory, completely ignoring honorable righteousness. Still, he drops a harsh warning. Adrien's blade is dripping with far too much bloodlust. At this chaotic rate, he will eventually slaughter both allies and enemies alike. The pieces finally click in our hero's brain. This whole intense interrogation is just tough love to fix his lethal habit. With a lingering glare, Vale promises to keep a hawkeye watch. He refuses to let his nephew get swallowed whole by his own inner demonic darkness. Fast forward 3 agonizing days, the grueling practice duels conclude. Adrien gives Taylor a huge thumbs up. The poor guy had been desperately blocking a blade coated in raw, terrifying killing intent for 72 straight hours. Without a single shred of doubt, Taylor just survived absolute torture camp. Our hero knows the guy must be secretly fuming, considering Taylor completely failed to land even a single scratch on him all week. Sweating bullets, Taylor desperately masks his bitter resentment. Breaking the tension, Adrien orders a maid to bring out a specially prepared mystery box for his battered opponent. Utterly baffled, the exhausted sparring partner nervously questions what is inside. Adrien casually admits his past self was a total trash-tier bully. While a simple gift can never erase those awful memories, he insists Taylor deliver this apology package straight to his father, Baron Tail. The legendary mystery box, just a mountain of shiny gold and a letter. Shoving the treasure into Taylor's trembling hands, our hero cheerfully wishes him a safe journey. Brain completely short-circuiting a flabbergasted Taylor awkwardly stammers out his gratitude for the wild generosity. Even if he has zero legal obligation to fix his past self's garbage personality, he firmly believes hard-working punching bags deserve proper overtime pay. Naturally, these wild sparring sessions went completely viral across the kingdom, with everyone praying for catastrophic gossip. But plotting gossips were utterly disappointed. Not a single battered opponent whispered a bad word about him. Instead, they showered him with praises. The salty haters hilariously assumed the royal family was paying off his victims with hush money. Hearing these ridiculous conspiracy theories, our poor protagonist just facepalms in pure frustration. He instantly realizes these gossiping nobles are literally completely jobless with too much free time. Time for a brilliant counterattack. Handing over the next golden gift box, he commands his battered opponent to loudly broadcast the truth of their clean match. His terrifyingly assertive tone makes the poor guy squeak out a panicked agreement. Satisfied, Adrien dusts his hands, thinking this will finally kill those annoying rumors. Plot twist, he played himself. The very next day, fresh rumors claim he is actively threatening opponents to violently fabricate false battle records. Absolutely done with this ridiculous circus, our hero throws his hands up in defeat. He chooses pure violence and trains relentlessly. His very next opponent gets absolutely flattened without a shred of mercy. Sweating from his demonic workout, he asks Carl for the remaining headcount. Carl drops the bombshell. Only one ultimate challenger remains arriving today. Flexing his tired muscles, Adrien complains that regular apprentice knights just are not fun anymore. Carl smirks, revealing this final boss is a legitimate knight who has fully mastered the blade. Refusing to coast on lazy noble privilege, this prodigy abandoned their family's prestigious arts to join the hardcore knighthood. Enter the legendary Arwin. Cue the dramatic entrance. Arwin steps into the light, revealing herself as a gorgeous warrior lady. She is mostly famous for ruthlessly breaking countless men's hearts. The kingdom guards instantly drop their jaws, totally mesmerized by her radiant beauty while wondering why a goddess is slumming it here. Meanwhile, the peanut gallery of workers eagerly prepares their popcorn for a comedy show. They expect to see him completely humiliated by her unmatched strength. To put things in perspective, the kingdom's Iron Lion Knights are a wildly legendary order, universally feared for their monstrous fame and sheer skill. Arwin is currently their rising star on probation, a terrifyingly promising talent whose official full-time membership is basically set in stone. Even our overconfident main character sweats a little, demanding to know why a dazzling genius like Arwin is wasting time challenging him to a duel. Carl casually mentions a past minor misunderstanding with Arwin. However, Adrien instantly senses the dark truth. Panicking slightly, he commands a nearby maid to spill exactly what his past self did. The servant confesses his horrific flirting, causing Adrien to mentally facepalm in absolute horror. During a grand banquet, the old Adrien shamelessly demanded the breathtaking knight become his personal maid. He brazenly grabbed her. Disgusted, she aggressively swatted his filthy hand away in public. She gently reminded him knights aren't toys. Furious, the trash prince called this absolute goddess ugly. The reincarnated Adrien is dying of cringe. How could he insult such a flawless beauty? Arwin coldly greets his highness sarcastically, noting his trash personality remains completely unchanged. Adrien nervously protests his character development. Suddenly, Count Vale arrives and Arwin formally introduces herself. Vale maliciously whispers for her to watch out for the prince's incredibly lethal sword strikes. Adrien drops his jaw. He completely feels betrayed by the supposed neutral referee snitching on him. Vale swiftly announces the brutal duel's beginning. Arwin crouches low, coiling her muscles for destruction. Eager to witness the Iron Lion's potential, Adrien braces himself as she explodes forward. Impressed by her terrifying speed, he parries. Suddenly, vicious mana violently surges backwards through his veins. Blood violently erupts from his mouth. Despite the shock, he deflects her blade, igniting an epic clash. Arwin ruthlessly dominates, crushing the prince with her completely overwhelming and monstrous physical strength. Getting dragged around like a rag doll, Adrien realizes his current stats are literal garbage here. Desperate, he ignites his Dragon Slayer heart. His explosive aura violently shifts, shocking Arwin entirely. Her lethal follow-up strike is effortlessly deflected. This insane power gap wasn't there before. Sensing extreme danger, Arwin immediately leaps backward to quickly regroup. Grinning, Adrien loudly praises her elite skills compared to the utter weaklings he usually fights. Activating his secretive judgment authority, he stares completely awestruck at her terrifyingly massive hidden potential. This system revelation brings massive relief. He can only view stats of enemies at his level or below, meaning victory is actually possible. Smirking, Adrien realizes the true battle starts now. Their monstrous blades clash mercilessly until dusk falls. Panting heavily and dripping sweat, their blazing eyes still demand more endless combat. Vale forcefully interrupts, postponing the bloodbath. Both stubborn fighters hilariously claim they totally had the advantage. Adrien eagerly demands overtime. Arwin furiously agrees, but Vale brutally shuts their madness down. The exhausted referee sternly commands the bruised lunatics to get some immediate magical medical attention. Panicked medics cast soothing healing magic on their battered bodies, while the rivals intensely glare daggers at each other. Storming off angrily, they both loudly vow absolute humiliating defeat for the other tomorrow. Day 3 arrives with zero clear victor. The dumbfounded spectators watch in absolute disbelief. Arwin's monstrous talent is terrifying, but the previously trash prince is actually matching her blows. Everyone prays this crazy war ends today. Before weapons clash, Adrien dramatically pauses the intense duel. Glaring coldly, Arwin bluntly warns him to swallow any pathetic excuses or cheap apologies immediately. Her fierce warrior pride firmly refuses to accept his past insults. Smirking, Adrien admires her burning desire to violently reclaim her trampled honor through raw power. He denies apologizing. Instead, his devious mind proposes a spicy, high-stakes wager for their brutal stalemate. The ultimate bet, the absolute loser, must grant the winner one completely unlimited, outrageous wish. The royal guards violently panic. They frantically scream at their crazy prince to stop this madness. Betting royal favors is highly illegal. This scandalous wager completely shatters all noble dignity. Annoyed, Adrien arrogantly tells the noisy peanut gallery to shut up and enjoy the grand show. He challenges Arwin's resolve. She calmly notes her humble status as a loyal royal knight apprentice. Making such bets is treasonous, but since the crazy prince commands it, she eagerly accepts. Lethal aura explodes from her trembling blade. Thrilled by her bloodlust, Adrien wildly cheers her on. She violently charges forward. Warning him no takebacks, the air explodes. Before anyone can blink, steel clashes against steel in a dizzying frenzy. But hold up, Adrien suddenly flips the script, busting out insane hidden techniques that leave Arwin absolutely flabbergasted. Wait, he was never this fast. Her eyes widen. Has this trash prince been hiding a monstrous power all along? Sparks fly as their blades dance, but shockingly, the fierce swordswoman is actually losing ground. Boom, Adrien blitzes forward with devastating aura. Arwin braces for impact, but he completely overwhelms her, slicing her sturdy blade clean in two. Arwin collapses to her knees, leaving the entire crowd utterly speechless. Her brain completely short-circuits. While she struggles to process this total defeat, Adrien casually strolls up, declaring his absolute victory in their little wager. Honoring their deal, he drops a massive bombshell. I want you, leaving her frozen in absolute panic. Watching this spicy drama unfold, guard Carl flashes back. He totally expected to babysit a spoiled royal terror, but reality hit differently. Sure, the prince reeked of arrogance on day 1, but those rumors of him being a raging lunatic were totally fake news. Instead, this guy grinded his stats daily, sweating it out like an absolute madman. Carl's mind was literally blown, seeing the prince cheerfully maxing out his stamina in a torrential downpour. Surviving near-fatal lightning strikes during practice, yeah, Carl instantly knew this crazy bastard was destined for legendary greatness. Snap back to reality, Carl is sweating bullets. Did his supposedly great prince really just propose to her? The peanut gallery cringes hard. Did Carl misread this trash prince? Arwin glares daggers, asking if he is seriously claiming her body. Adrien shamelessly nods. He smirks, roasting her alive. She is just a rookie knight who somehow lost to a chubby, useless royal. But plot twist, he actually demands her monstrous potential and brilliant future on the battlefield. He craves a fiercely loyal blade, not a system-assigned babysitter like Carl who only obeys the king's annoying orders. Simply put, our boy wants an overpowered vassal that belongs exclusively to him. He had to pull this massive brain play. Seeing her insane talent, there was zero chance he'd let this top-tier companion slip away. The prince drops the mic, "Become my sword." Arwin's jaw practically shatters from the pure shock. Her mind reels. Flashbacks hit. Growing up, absolutely nobody respected her dream of walking the knight's bloody path. Because of that trash society, she grinded through hell, bleeding twice as much as the others. Yet despite crushing every single rival and boasting flawless stats, the official title of knight was still unfairly denied. Hearing this notorious prince validate her entire existence, she freezes. Is this ridiculous royal actually speaking from his heart? Fixing her fiery gaze on him, she demands one sacred vow. Treat her strictly as a warrior, never as just a woman. If he swears upon that honor, her blade will flawlessly execute his every command. Their eyes lock in silent understanding. He swears it. Instantly, the proud warrior kneels, cementing an unbreakable vow of absolute loyalty, offering her life and sword to his grand destiny. Meanwhile, the peanut gallery watches this epic scene in glorious, stunned silence. With majestic flair, he rests his blade upon her trembling shoulders. A legendary contract is forged. Fast forward, high society collectively loses their minds. They can't fathom why a prodigy would pledge her soul to a legendary trash prince. These snobby aristocrats threw sponsorship offers at her, but she fiercely rejected them all. Naturally, their filthy minds assume some incredibly spicy secret romance is brewing behind closed doors. The rumor mill explodes, claiming this fake knight's oath is just a naughty excuse to make her his personal concubine. Of course, the gossip reaches our boy. He angrily clutches his hair, screaming internally, "Am I seriously written as the ultimate villain?" His reputation is so cooked, he might as well be crowned the supreme trash king of the universe. Seeing his liege having a total mental breakdown, Carl brings up that spicy dialogue from the duel. Does he really hate system-assigned guards? Adrien smirks. "Did that hurt your feelings, big guy?" He brutally reminds Carl that one single royal order would make him pack his bags instantly. The prince cheekily jokes about accepting Carl's eternal vow later. Shockingly, the stoic guard eagerly bites the bait. Carl desperately asks to join the squad, but Adrien mercilessly rejects him. Raising an old dude offers zero growth spurt satisfaction. Carl nervously chuckles, totally convinced this is just epic trolling. Spoiler alert, the prince is deadly serious. Suddenly, a royal messenger drops a huge bomb. His tedious house arrest is officially over. What a plot twist. The furious king acted ready to lock him in a dark abyss forever. Why the sudden VIP treatment? He loudly groans, totally baffled by whatever massive galaxy brain scheme his royal father is currently cooking up. Meanwhile, Carl just sweat drops, wondering why his master isn't throwing a massive freedom party. Adrien shrugs it off. He honestly could not care less. Leave the palace, sure, but to go where? The guy literally has zero friends and absolute zero places to crash. Right on cue, a maid pops in. She drops a fancy-looking invitation right in his lap. He cracks it open. A VIP social club for noble brats. The maid mentions he is a total regular there. Squinting, Adrien asks if this sketchy joint is completely unhinged. She awkwardly mutters that those spoiled rich kids mostly just use women like her for their cheap entertainment. Oh bingo, Adrien instantly translates that to a trashy playground for booze babes and absolute garbage behavior. Hard pass. Adrien firmly rejects the offer. He has zero time for partying while grinding his brutal training. But wait, the sender is his so-called buddy, Bernardo Eli. The second that surname hits his eyes, a light bulb flicks on. Where has he heard that epic name before? Flashback time. Vale once mentioned the Eli clan went completely bankrupt because they obsessively crafted mana hearts. Plot twist, Adrien immediately does a complete 180. He smirks at the maid, declaring he is crashing this party. Bowing quickly, the loyal maid promises to get his royal outfit perfectly prepped. Internally, he begs the universe that this family is not completely broke yet. Suddenly, a time skip hits. 4 whole months have vanished since he hijacked this trash prince avatar. Through absolute hellish grinding and pure sweat, this guy finally melted off all that extra royal flab. His personal tailor is literally left shaking, completely blinded by the prince's jaw-dropping new glow-up. Adrien casually shrugs off the weight loss, but the tailor dramatically screams that he is literally half his original size. With a cool smirk, Adrien orders the trembling guy to start crafting his ultimate palace banquet drip. The tailor cries tears of joy, but wait, Adrien abruptly cancels the order. Why? Because this absolute madman plans to get even more shredded before the big event. Fast forward a few days, house arrest lifted. Our boy is rolling out to that super shady VIP brat club. Lounging in his fancy carriage, Adrien sighs heavily. Playing royal dress-up is seriously draining his social battery. Shifting his gaze, he glances at the quiet maid riding faithfully by his side. Spotting an ugly scar, he asks what happened. She nervously mutters it was her own clumsy fault. Translation: the old scumbag version of Adrien totally attacked her. Pure rage bubbles inside him. Every time he uncovers this host body's vile history, the absolute trash tier lore just gets worse and worse. Then a super awkward realization hits him like a truck. They have chilled for 4 months, and he never asked her name. Coughing awkwardly, he finally asks her identity. She quietly answers Adelia Byron. That iconic surname instantly echoes in his brain. Byron. He knows that epic name. Lore drop time. Back in the ancient Dark Ages, long before giant kingdoms, humans were the ultimate bottom-tier mob characters getting farmed daily. But then legendary heroes spawned to smash that painful reality. An epic world war erupted. Thanks to these absolute raid bosses, humanity finally leveled up, conquering the continent as the supreme dominant species. Just 5 legendary powerhouses carried the entire human race. The world dubbed them the absolute 5 electors. One of these mythical legends was an insanely overpowered swordswoman. She casually swatted away massive towering giants like annoying little mosquitoes. She literally chopped off the giant king's head, instantly canceling humanity's long era of brutal suffering. History called this absolute monster the Iron-Blooded Sword Marquis. Her real name, Agnes Byron. Recalling Agnes gives Adrien a massive headache from her insanely toxic battlefield trash talk. But seriously, how did the bloodline of that terrifying legend turn into this timid little maid? Suddenly, Carl interrupts the lore dump. They have officially hit their sketchy destination. Stepping out into the night, he tosses Adelia a smirk. They are definitely having a deep lore chat later. Bernardo instantly grovels at the carriage door. Bowing aggressively, he fake cries about how thrilled he is to see his royal buddy alive and kicking. But Adrien just glares in utter disappointment. How is this sniveling little punk actually related to the legendary Eli clan? The annoying kid keeps yapping completely unaware until he catches Adrien's bone-chilling psychotic smile. Sweating bullets, the kid stutters. Adrien just chuckles darkly. Oh, he is so glad he crashed this party. This absolute dumpster fire is going to be hilarious. With a heavy shoulder pat, Adrien strolls inside. Bernardo is left shivering in pure confused panic. Inside the VIP room is packed with arrogant nobles. They instantly start chugging expensive booze and bragging about their toxic dating lives. Bernardo sweats nervously. Something is terrifyingly wrong. The old Adrien would be utterly smashed by now, dancing on tables like a complete clown. Worse yet, the prince's entire vibe has flipped. His aura feels incredibly heavy, dark, and dangerously sharp. Suddenly, some clueless extra struts up to Adrien, smirking about some juicy gossip involving the beautiful Arwin. Adrien stays stone-cold silent. The idiot keeps bragging, whining that he wanted to claim Arwin first before the prince snagged her. The rest of the peanut gallery drunkenly agrees with him. These background mobs whine about missing their chance to snatch her loyalty. One total creep even starts fantasizing about what Arwin hides beneath her heavy armor. Adrien finally reaches his limit with this garbage talk. He slowly turns to the creep, casually asking if he has any siblings back home. Caught off guard by this random question, the fool blinks in confusion, confirming he actually has a little brother waiting at the estate. Adrien smiles. Oh, what a massive relief. In the blink of an eye, a brutal right hook absolutely obliterates the guy's smug face. He crashes hard into the floor, violently coughing up his expensive wine. The entire room instantly freezes in absolute jaw-dropping horror. Bernardo is completely lost. Meanwhile, our prince calmly steps right over to the whimpering noble. Adrien casually whispers how thankful he is. At least the guy's noble bloodline will survive what happens next. Bam! Adrien ruthlessly stomps flat on the dude's family jewels. A terrifying crunch echoes out as the guy shrieks in pure agonizing despair. With ice in his eyes, Adrien announces the glorious news. Congratulations, the little brother is officially the new heir. He unleashes a merciless beatdown while the surrounding audience absolutely loses their minds. Spitting blood, the broken noble begs to know why he deserves this. Adrien snaps back. He can handle being called a scumbag, but he absolutely refuses to let these pathetic hypocrites think they are equals. The peanut gallery is completely baffled, totally missing the philosophical point, so Adrien just goes right back to happily punching the living daylights out of him. One final uppercut sends the guy soaring. Dusting his hands off, Adrien snaps his fingers for Bernardo, who instantly drops to his trembling knees. Our main character smirks, reminding his lackey about his earlier promise. Didn't he guarantee today would be an incredibly fun time? Bernardo is internally screaming. Why is the prince acting like a righteous hero when he used to be the biggest trash of them all? Adrien casually orders Bernardo to fetch the royal knights. The lackey pauses for a hot second, then wisely decides his life is worth living. He instantly bolts out the door, swearing total obedience. With his terrified servant gone on an errand, Adrien turns to the terrified ladies, politely telling them to evacuate. Naturally, one of the cowardly nobles tries to sneak out with them, but Adrien shoots him a death glare. Did he stutter? He clearly stated only the women get a free pass out of this hell. He cheerfully offers a compromise. The guy can totally leave, but his manhood stays behind. Remembering the recent egg-crushing incident, the noble absolutely panics. Adrien stares down the arrogant group. Not a single one of these fools bothered kneeling to a literal prince. Talk about a massive lack of respect. Even worse, they were busy trash-talking him to his face while heavily disrespecting his newly appointed knight. Playing the smart card, Adrien glances over to ask Carl exactly what legal charges fit this hilarious situation. Stepping into the room with perfect timing, Carl drops the legal bomb. Mocking royal blood is practically a textbook case of disrespecting the crown. The arrogant mobs instantly turn pale. The terrifying reality sets in. They are absolutely unquestionably screwed. Adding fuel to the fire, Carl formally states that openly challenging royal authority equals an automatic ticket to Treasonville. Carl practically hands him the remote control, eagerly asking the prince who needs their kneecaps forcefully introduced to the floor. Flashing a wonderfully evil smirk, Adrien commands the royal guards to make absolutely every single one of them grovel. Fast forward to the throne room. The furious king immediately roasts Adrien, screaming about how he caused a massive disaster the exact second his probation ended. The poor king is losing his mind. 14 high-ranking noble brats were just thrown behind bars, all because his crazy son managed to legally weaponize an extreme punishment against a bunch of drunk idiots. The king is totally sweating bullets. By playing the royal authority card, punishment is mandatory, but locking up 14 noble heirs guarantees an absolutely massive political headache. Reading his father like an open manga volume, Adrien casually waves off the concern. He tells the stressed king to stop worrying about political fallout. Why? Because those imprisoned guys are literal outcasts in their own homes. They are absolutely worthless garbage, living embarrassments who constantly ruin their noble family names just by existing. Adrien hits him with a big brain strategy, suggesting he send out some specific letters. The king is completely lost in the sauce. Adrien playfully nudges the truth. Surely his father knows who truly controls the internal family drama way better than the actual heads. The ambitious younger siblings of those arrested idiots, of course. Flashing the ultimate villainous grin, he dares the king to find a flaw in his logic. The completely flabbergasted king just rubs his temples and tells him to get out. Adrien cheerfully salutes the dismissal, a total flawless victory, knowing his father cannot argue with pure, unadulterated facts. Scene change. He approaches Adelia, but she is practically vibrating with sheer terror, just making eye contact. Adrien quickly throws his hands up, swearing he comes in peace. But nope, she continues quivering like a traumatized smartphone on silent mode. Our protagonist suddenly has a dark epiphany. The original owner of this body must have put this poor girl through absolute unimaginable hell. Strangely enough, Adrien realizes nobody even remembers the legendary Agnes. It feels like her glorious history and overpowered martial arts were just magically deleted from the server. The almighty prestige and sky-high pride of the Byron family vanished into thin air. But brace yourselves, because something way crazier is hiding in the shadows. Adrien opens Adelia's status window and his jaw practically hits the floor, an S rank in swordsmanship and an A rank in mana sensitivity. But her passive skills are completely unhinged. She packs the Butcher War Maniac, Fragile Heart Caregiver, and the infamous Slave Mentality traits. Adrien breaks out in a cold sweat at this terrifyingly overpowered combo. That Butcher trait means one drop of blood sends her absolutely berserk. Throw in War Maniac, and she transforms into a total battle-crazed lunatic. Add the overly dependent Slave Mentality, and Adrien grabs his hair in pure panic. Adelia possesses a monstrous, unrivaled potential. The catch, she lacks even a single skill to put the brakes on this absolute madness. He hesitates deeply, questioning if unleashing this walking disaster onto the world is morally okay. But morality takes a back seat. Adrien realizes he absolutely cannot let a legendary S-rank powerhouse slip through his fingers. Plus, there is one highly exploitable loophole in her system panel, the Slave Mentality trait. It is a unique passive where the user feels euphoric bliss by wholeheartedly serving a chosen master. Stepping closer, Adrien boldly commands Adelia to swear absolute loyalty to him. Blinking in utter confusion, she stands totally clueless. Adrien doesn't hesitate, straight up demanding that she become his personal knight on the spot. Dropping to her knees, she stammers that a lowly maid like her could never handle such an epic burden. Adrien fires back, reminding her of her struggling family. He vows to take full responsibility for their well-being. But the price? She must offer her undying loyalty and accept him as her master. Essentially, he is stepping up to become the human leash for her chaotic, unstoppable madness. Eyes wide with hope, she asks if he truly means it. Adrien firmly nods his head. He even promises to relocate them straight to the royal capital, ensuring she can see her loved ones anytime. A radiant smile blooms on her face as she happily accepts his game-changing proposal. Without skipping a beat, she pledges her sword. She vows to serve him as her sole master, dedicating her entire life to his cause. Smirking in triumph, Adrien gently pats her head, declaring that from this very second onward, his commands are absolute. Blushing a deep shade of crimson, she completely submits to his will. Meanwhile, Adrien breaks a nervous sweat, wondering if he just made a colossal mistake. Before long, wild gossip explodes across the estate. The juiciest rumor: the prince just elevated a lowly maid into his exclusive personal knight. Naturally, the entire castle immediately assumes he is constructing a massive, shameless harem. Hearing this scandalous gossip, Adrien is utterly speechless. Nobody ever gave him the time of day before. Now, they are practically grabbing pitchforks. Even his royal father firmly believes he has turned into a total playboy. Everyone from his nagging uncle to his obnoxious brother suddenly has an extremely loud opinion about his life. Even the Queen Mother storms in for a visit, and his ultimate shield brutally turns her back on him. She dramatically concludes that this foolishness stems from loneliness. Her solution: she is personally going to find him a proper wife. Adrien freezes in horror, but before he can even protest, she ruthlessly scolds him and makes a grand exit. Later, Adrien summons his new knight to his private quarters. It is time for her to awaken her mana. Though the world erased Agnes from history, Adrien fiercely guards her memories in his heart. Channeling pure energy into his palms, he forcefully injects mana into Adelia until her senses finally ignite. Ding. The system gleefully chimes, confirming his mana has perfectly rooted inside her, successfully forging a brand new mana heart. Adelia gasps in sheer wonder at the glowing energy. Adrien grins, announcing she just birthed her very own mana core. He instructs her to train this newfound power daily. But mid-sentence, his energy completely bottoms out, sending him crashing to his knees. Adelia frantically panics, screaming to check on his well-being. Secretly, Adrien curses his pathetic stamina for draining so fast. Waving her off, he promises he just needs to catch his breath. A tidal wave of pure emotion crashes over Adelia at his noble sacrifice. Awkwardly clearing his throat, Adrien orders her to step outside. Suddenly, noticing her sparkling, borderline obsessive gaze, she deeply bows, dramatically renewing her lifelong vow of absolute devotion. Sweating slightly, Adrien accepts her fierce loyalty, reminding her to permanently etch his authority into her soul. She passionately promises, but internally, Adrien is terrified of his own creation. Several days pass by in peace. Suddenly, Carl drops heavy news. Bernardo is locked up tightly as a star witness under strict isolation until the trial finally commences. Sweating bullets about the upcoming trial, Adrien panics. But Carl calmly reminds him royalty sits above the petty courtroom drama. A huge sigh of relief escapes him, yet a nagging dread lingers. Is this insane situation spiraling way out of control? Pivoting to Adelia, who is aggressively scrubbing a vase, he checks on her condition. Confused, she tilts her head. He bluntly demands, has her mana heart finally stabilized? With a resolute nod, she confirms it has. A sly grin forms. From this exact second, she is joining his brutal daily grind. Drop the rags, he barks. Go equip your training gear and hit the dirt. You are a holy knight now, absolutely not a lowly maid. But Uncle Vale violently objects to dragging a girl onto the sacred battlefield. Hello, she is my personal knight, Adrien snaps back. Veins popping, Vale roars that the way of the sword is not some childish joke. He viciously scolds the boy's reckless arrogance, but Adrien bites back, utterly furious that this boomer keeps sticking his nose into royal business. Seriously, why even lurk around the barracks if you despise it so much, he scoffs. Mid-screaming match, Adelia stumbles in. She just crushed her brutal 10-lap penalty and is gasping for dear life. Catching the fiery glare off, she awkwardly bows nervously, asking if her presence sparked this explosive family feud. Waving off the tension, Adrien smirks. Relax, he says, preparing to bestow the legendary ultimate basic stance upon her. Channeling absolute main character energy, he drops into position and slices the air with picture-perfect textbook precision. Dropping his blade with a flashy flourish, he challenges her to mirror his flawless technique. Gripping her wooden blade, Adelia's eyes turn dead serious. Bam! She mirrors his exact form flawlessly on the first try, leaving both men utterly speechless. Blinking innocently, she politely asks if her grip is correct. Adrien is paralyzed with absolute comedic terror. Oh crap, if he slacks off, this genius maid will definitely grind him into dust. His brain screams the terrifying truth: the slave trait kneels only to overwhelming power. She already holds deep grudges against his trashy past. He internally sweats buckets, imagining the horrifying revenge she will unleash once she outscales his stats. Meanwhile, Vale is practically drooling over her insane raw talent. Spotting his uncle's greedy gaze, Adrien instantly growls at him to back off his prized recruit. Vale snorts mercilessly. You teach her, please, he mocks the prince brutally, reminding him he is just a pathetic newbie with 3 months of experience. The disrespect hits critical mass. Boom! Vale shamelessly erupts his monstrous veteran aura. Trying to crush the boy's spirit, he snarls that Adrien is entirely unworthy. The old trash prince would have cried and surrendered. But this reincarnated powerhouse, he does not flinch at such weak pressure. Smirking through the crushing gravity, Adrien flexes back. Only he is worthy, having literally devoured the cursed blood of legendary nightmarish beasts to forge his core. Hijacking Gruhorn's demonic soul, a terrifying crimson aura violently erupts. Standing like a true boss, he stares down the veteran, declaring she belongs to his faction alone. Keep your greedy eyes off my property, he commands with absolute ice, because his absolute biggest pet peeve is loot stealers touching his stuff. Suddenly an icy chill freezes his spine. The demon soul is trying to possess him. Panicking internally, Adrien aggressively shoves the dark entity back into its mental cage, wiping his sweat and acting cool. Vale dramatically lectures that one average swordsman protects 10 men, while a true master shields 100 souls from death. And staring at Adelia, he sees infinite heaven-defying potential. She could easily salvage 1,000 desperate lives. Adrien raises an eyebrow. Is this stubborn commander already scouting her for his elite vanguard? Crossing his arms, Adrien delivers a devastating reality check. He literally could not care less. Shocked, Vale gasps. Do the lives of thousands mean nothing to your selfish pride? But Adelia ruthlessly shuts the old man down. My absolute loyalty belongs only to my prince, she declares, rejecting his holy crusade entirely. Vale's jaw drops to the dirt. Adrien, meanwhile, does a mental victory dance. Flexing that demonic aura worked perfectly. The system's submission trait instantly bowed to his overwhelming flex. Since his knight made her choice, Adrien smugly asks if class is officially dismissed. After all, the original quest was just burning belly fat, which is proudly completed. He practically evicts Vale, warning him to zip his lips if he ever wants courtyard privileges again. Defeated, Vale surrenders. Yet he stubbornly loiters around the castle every single day just to fanboy over Adelia's progress. Gagged by the prince's rules, the boomer can only watch silently. Adrien secretly relishes watching his famously obnoxious uncle suffer in absolute miserable silence. Suddenly, mid-swing, Adelia accidentally triggers high-tier sword resonance. Boom! Both men's eyes pop out of their skulls. Outwardly, Adrien claps like a proud master. Inwardly, he is screaming in pure panic. Oh no, my bodyguard is totally going to outscale me by next Tuesday. Vale marches straight up to Adrien. He demands to know if Adelia learned that garbage mana heart. Adrien just shrugs it off. He stares right back, asking what the big deal is anyway. Vale absolutely loses his mind. He shrieks furious that Adrien passed down such a pathetic third-rate parlor trick. Catching Adelia eavesdropping on this meltdown, Adrien swiftly orders his loudmouth uncle to take a hike before she gets the wrong idea. But Vale just keeps loudly yapping, complaining that Adrien completely ruined a vastly superior path. Fed up, Adrien simply signals Carl to escort the noisy old man out. Shaking off the guards, Vale dramatically storms out on his own 2 feet. Left behind, a very confused Adelia asks about that cheap trick comment. Her puppy dog eyes ask the dreaded question. Is her magic actually garbage? Adrien warmly promises her it is absolutely not. She is still totally shaken by the old man's epic rant. Adrien simply sighs, brushing off his uncle as a clueless boomer. He explains that these modern snobs are completely blind. If they actually grasped its true monstrous potential, they would literally beg on their knees to learn it. With a confident smirk, he promises she will witness the legendary power of the mana heart with her own 2 eyes very soon. Fast forward a bit, and guess who is back? Vale crashes the training grounds again, leaving Adrien utterly flabbergasted. Cutting right to the chase, the stubborn old boomer demands a duel to literally prove this so-called strength. Flexing his massive ego, Vale vows to use only 1 single mana ring. If Adrien can push him back even 1 inch, he will officially acknowledge him. Adrien draws his blade with a sly grin. He cheekily reminds his uncle about the sweet blank check reward for winning this bet. Vale confidently agrees to grant literally any wish, no matter what it takes. Boom! Adrien instantly launches forward like a missile, aiming straight for the jugular, but Vale casually sidesteps the brutal attack. Adrien goes completely goblin mode. He unleashes a brutal hurricane of heavy strikes, yet he cannot even graze a single hair on the old man's head. Vale is chilling like a literal mountain. He flawlessly weaves through the furious onslaught with annoying ease. Clang. Vale finally swats away the heavy blade. With a highly smug grin, he rudely asks if playtime is over. Skidding backward, Adrien is huffing and puffing from swinging at ghosts. Vale laughs at his misery, but Adrien spits back that he is still as solid as a rock. Though, honestly, on the inside, Adrien is sweating bullets. He reluctantly admits this boomer is actually an absolute monster in combat. He realizes Vale is simply playing with his food. The old guy is waiting for him to draw out his mana just to crush his spirit completely. It is a tough pill to swallow. With his current low-level mana heart, a head-on clash means a one-way ticket to certain defeat. Taking a breather, Adrien chuckles. He points out the hilarious irony that ancient knights conquered literal empires using this exact same mana heart. Yet the moment some shiny new ring technique dropped, the classic arts were instantly treated like garbage. Vale frowns, demanding to know what he is getting at. Adrien drops the absolute mic. He proudly reveals that the mana heart was never actually weak, it was just wielded by complete scrubs who lacked true mastery. He boldly declares that not all mana hearts are built the same. His foundation operates on a completely different level. Flashing an arrogant grin, he asks if Vale knows the legendary martial spirit hymn, but Vale yawns, bluntly telling the kid to shut up and swing his sword. Adrien totally saw that coming. Of course, a guy who treats the ancient arts like cheap mercenary garbage wouldn't appreciate true martial philosophy. Vale mercilessly roasts him, joking that Adrien is talking so much just to stall for time and catch his breath. Heck no, Adrien shifts into a totally terrifying stance. He begins chanting an ancient hymn, singing of how 100 glorious victories have been his ultimate pride and power. The resonance violently builds, his mana heart pumps furiously to the rhythm, birthing the ultimate manifestation of the martial arts spirit hymn. Ding, golden aura violently erupts from his blade. The system pops up, confirming the glorious awakening of the sparring hymn. Zero hesitation, he triggers the epic buff instantly, ready to forcefully shove the true might of the mana heart right down his uncle's throat. Yet Vale looks as bored as ever. He coldly dismisses the flashy light show, insisting that a trash technique is still just trash. He arrogantly declares the harsh reality. As long as Adrien relies on a primitive mana heart, he will never shatter the absolute superiority of the mana chain. Talk to the hand. Adrien rockets forward like a bullet, clashing against Vale's flawless defense in an explosive strike. Ouch! Adrien feels the nasty recoil immediately. Vale's mana ring naturally forces a brutal backflow of energy, making every blocked strike feel like internal torture. Spotting the kid wincing in pain, Vale chuckles ruthlessly. He sarcastically praises Adrien for being such a wonderfully durable punching bag. But Adrien is grinning like an absolute maniac. He literally could not care less about the stupid mana ring's fancy tricks. Why? Because unlocking this specific hymn required him to spar over 100 times, enduring the crushing mana of rings over 1,000 times. This exact power was forged in pure agony, specifically to slaughter mana ring knights. An ungodly amount of aura detonates from his body. The sparring him pushes his physical limits into absolute overdrive, making the very air crackle with intense pressure. He finally found the ultimate test dummy. Going completely berserk, Adrien leaps into the sky, raining down an endless, devastating barrage of heavy strikes. Uh-oh, the arrogant boomer finally starts sweating. Vale never in a million years expected this annoying kid to possess such monstrous stamina. Forced onto the defensive, Vale desperately shoves the boy away. He screams in absolute disbelief, demanding to know how this impossible power even exists. Landing smoothly, Adrien flashes a deadly, cocky smirk. He told him already. His mana heart hits completely different, and the old man is about to find out exactly why. Vale finally drops the act, scolding our arrogant hero while getting deadly serious. Bam! A devastating strike sends Adrien rocketing across the field. Vale coldly declares that playtime is officially over. Still, Vale drops a tiny compliment. Surviving this long was actually pretty legendary. Coughing blood, Adrien realizes a basic martial spirit hymn is useless. One hit left him looking like absolute street trash. Cue the monologue. Adrien restarts his boring history lecture. He rambles that ancient knights completely screwed over their descendants. By wiping out all threats, they left no real enemies to fight. Back in the golden days, everything was perfect. Epic sword arts and blindingly powerful martial hymns were fully preserved. But time is a ruthless thief. Those glorious achievements completely faded into dusty, forgotten history. He preaches about unseen dragons and colossal giant kings, stuff straight out of cheap fantasy. Adrien smirks, betting that Vale just thinks this is all some childish fairy tale. Sure, they invented new hymns, but these weak skills were only good for beating 10 knights or bullying 100 mere foot soldiers. The once godly hymns were tragically downgraded just to fight humans. They became completely obsolete. He roasts Vale's precious mana chain, calling it a cheap trick that could never reach divine dominance. Vale is absolutely baffled by this lore dump. He bluntly asks if Adrien has been chugging cheap wine. Suddenly, Adrien's tone drops. He calls Vale a clueless, arrogant knight who doesn't even realize the legendary power they lost. Boom, Adrien's blue aura erupts into a terrifying blood-red storm. With a sinister smirk, he vows to personally teach Vale the true forgotten arts. Overflowing with savage aura, Adrien reveals a monstrous technique, an art designed to slice dragon scales and drink their boiling blood. He tries activating the dragon-slaying hymn, but oops, the system pops up. His current abilities can't handle this mythical grade. Adrien grunts in agonizing pain as the system nerfs the hymn. It locks down until barely a quarter remains. But a quarter is all he needs. Harnessing that ancient fraction, he launches directly at Vale. Clash Vale blocks the savage swing, but panic sets in. His blade is cracking. He's about to get completely steamrolled. Panicking Vale pulls a totally desperate wildcard move to block Adrien's monstrous strike. Kaboom! A massive explosion detonates, launching Adrien through the air like a rag doll. Adrien crashes hard. As the dust settles, he catches Vale red-handed. Didn't he promise to only use a single mana ring? Busted Vale secretly activated all 4 rings in a panic, but hilariously, his precious sword still got sliced in half. Still, Adrien secretly admits the bitter truth. Heart mana is just totally inferior to ring mana, but he cockily declares Vale the loser, leaving him dumbfounded. Later, Adrien bolts awake in bed, sweating from a horrific nightmare about Gruhorn's possession. Drenched in cold sweat, he grips his pounding head. This painful backlash is the ultimate price. Forcefully ripping out a mythical power like the dragon-slaying hymn has some serious side effects on a normal body. His fragile body couldn't handle it and completely shattered. But whatever, totally worth it. Adrien casually concentrates his mana, upgrading his sparring hymn. Ding. The system gleefully announces a successful level up. A wicked smile spreads across his face. This shiny new upgrade is exactly what he needs to crush Jillian, the third prince. Right on cue, Adelia bursts in. She practically cries tears of joy, seeing our hero finally conscious again. She spills the tea. The palace was in total chaos because the angry queen completely ripped into her brother. Adrien just shrugs it off. Honestly, those arrogant royals totally got what they deserved. Adelia adds that Vale left strict orders. He demanded to be notified the exact second Adrien wakes up, but Adrien waves her off, demanding secrecy. Our exhausted protagonist needs a little more beauty sleep. Jokes aside, the backlash is no laughing matter. His spirit is heavily damaged from overusing that overpowered martial hymn. Without recovery, his reality and past memories will violently blend into a chaotic mess. The flimsy boundary of reality would completely shatter. He'd be permanently doomed to wander as a raving lunatic. He'd be locked inside a severed nightmare world, forced to endlessly replay the bloody memories of ancient martial spirits. Just thinking about it gives him full-body chills. Imagine escaping a sword to become human, only to get trapped in memories again. Later, Adrien hypes up Adelia's ancestor, Agnes. He reveals she is destined to inherit the insanely powerful martial spirit hymn left behind, but he instantly ruins the mood, bluntly warning her she needs to level up massively before filling those legendary shoes. Adrien casually asks Adelia her ultimate swordplay goal. Blushing, she stammers, trying to formulate her epic response. She bashfully confesses that to become a true knight, she must become his ultimate blade. Adrien freezes in sheer disbelief. Legendary historical hymns always kick off with such intense cinematic vows. Blazing aura erupts across the room. Adelia fiercely vows to pledge her entire destiny to him alone. Ping. The system alerts Adrien. She just unlocked the legendary hymn of subordination for him. Mind blown, Adrien literally catches her miraculous glowing hymn straight into his trembling palms. Since martial spirit hymns trigger chain reactions, a brand new power, the hymn of domination, suddenly awakens. Subordination serves the master, sure. But this martial spirit oath, it literally chains their souls together in absolute unbreakable submission. Adrien is absolutely flabbergasted. How could an Agnes descendant casually spawn such an overpowered submission hymn? Still, he smirks. Free overpowered assistance, he will gladly take it. The best perk, because he anchors her subordination hymn, her insane leveling speeds up his own growth. Absolute win. Totally overwhelmed, Adrien deeply thanks her. Later, he is chilling like a villain when his mother abruptly invades his peace. He acts cool but senses massive awkwardness. She clearly still misses his adorable chubby dumpling phase. The queen nervously asks if he holds toxic grudges against Uncle Vale. Adrien completely brushes it off. She furiously squints, doubting him entirely. That nagging old man tortured him forever, right? Adrien smoothly stands his ground. Zero bad blood against his grumpy uncle whatsoever. Why worry? He already smacked Vale's ego to pieces. That epic strike planted seeds of brutal humiliation the old man must choke down daily. Adrien figures Vale might break limits if capable. Otherwise, his precious sword path will crumble into dust. Honestly, our main character could not care less. The queen sighs. Vale practically dated his sword instead of interacting with actual human beings. Hence his hilariously socially awkward and fiercely grumpy personality. Plot twist: Vale actually defended Adrien to the king. That cranky uncle actively fought to cancel his nephew's strict probation early. And how did Adrien repay this? By instantly sparking massive chaos upon release. No wonder Vale looked so utterly betrayed. Adrien finally connects the hilarious dots. Still, Adrien scratches his head. Why did grumpy uncle stick his neck out anyway? Cue disaster. A nerdy scholar named Nicolo gets deployed to force Adrien into academics. Adrien internally screams. He violently throws a dramatic tantrum on the floor. Studying is for losers. Nicolo roasts him. Uneducated fools are mere beasts. Adrien snaps back, glaring at the absolute audacity of this boomer. Nicolo smirks. Since class just started giving him the beast title is actually too generous. Triggered, Adrien flexes his modern brain, boasting he already knows everything despite his youth. Challenge accepted, Nicolo proposes a high-stakes academic showdown against this cocky brat. They will debate hardcore politics. If Adrien truly possesses galaxy brain knowledge, the tutor will vanish forever. Adrien flashes a devious grin, accepting instantly, but plot twist, he accidentally gets helplessly sucked into learning. Nicolo smoothly drops a heavy textbook, The Theory of the Iron-Blooded Monarch. Total nerd bait. The book coldly frames loyal ruler-subject dynamics as strict business transactions. Adrien completely zones into the text while Nicolo lectures about trading military might for royal shielding. Basically, subjects pledge undying loyalty simply to farm political stability and hardcore protection. Adrien nods enthusiastically. In his pragmatic mind, all relationships boil down to equal give and take. Boom, they accidentally marathon the entire day. Nicolo physically has to drag him out of hyperfocus. The tutor vows to return tomorrow. Adrien smiles brightly, demanding more of this academic crack. Once alone, the horrifying truth hits Adrien. He just voluntarily studied all day like a massive nerd. Meanwhile, Nicolo chuckles outside. This rumored delinquent prince is actually a hidden genius. Days later, Adrien tragically rolls around bed whining about deadly boredom. Carl just sighs painfully. Has he been grinding too hard? Without his daily combat dopamine, this idle life is absolute torture. Reality check, his battered body is basically still glued together with healing potions. Suddenly, an announcement arrives. Vale is waiting at the door. Adelia awaits his command. Send him in, Adrien sighs. He fully expected this visit as days had passed since their explosive duel. The moment Vale steps inside, Adrien notices his haggard state. It seems his uncle hasn't conquered the psychological trauma from their clash. Swallowing his immense pride, Vale bows his head in profound apology. Adrien completely freezes. The mighty uncle is actually saying sorry. Vale confesses his crippling guilt for breaking his personal oath and inflicting that devastating wound. He offers absolutely zero excuses for his crushing failure. Ironically, Adrien knows his terrible condition wasn't caused by Vale's aura blade. It was the massive backlash from overusing the true dragon-slaying hymn. Honoring their wager, Vale demands Adrien name his ultimate prize. The man is so consumed by guilt he genuinely offers to sever his own arm. Adrien shoots him a look of utter disgust. What would he even do with a severed arm? He truly cannot fathom how such an elite martial artist became such a massive drama queen. Deciding to be merciful, Adrien finally reveals his grand request. He simply wants permission to go on a fun little field trip. Vale blinks in sheer confusion. Adrien's probation is already lifted, meaning he can freely roam around the estate anytime. Adrien quickly shakes his head. He isn't talking about a boring afternoon stroll. He wants a grand vacation far beyond the capital. Vale sighs, noting that organizing such an expedition takes time. Plus, the upcoming royal banquet strictly limits their travel distance. Adrien shrugs in agreement. Satisfied, Vale turns to leave, promising to finalize the travel itinerary very soon. Once the door clicks shut, Carl stares daggers at him. Adrien raises an eyebrow. Carl scoffs at the anticlimax. He totally expected his master to demand something ruthlessly diabolical. It was the ultimate blackmail opportunity. Vale practically served his life on a silver platter. Adrien casually shrugs. Watching the proud man act so pathetically just made him feel bad. Carl bursts into uncontrollable laughter at Adrien, showing genuine empathy. Adrien snaps back, warning the cheeky spirit that he's getting way too comfortable lately. Their comedic bickering is suddenly interrupted. Adelia holds up a mysterious sealed envelope. Breaking the wax seal, Adrien grins. It's an update from Arwin bragging about her recent glorious victory. A satisfied smirk stretches across his face. Now that is exactly the kind of juicy gossip he loves. 5 days pass before the schedule drops. 2 days later, their grand adventure finally begins. Buzzing with childlike excitement, Adrien shoves his head out the carriage window, practically yelling to ask their exact destination. Amused by his nephew's vibrant energy, Vale orders him back inside, promising to reveal the master plan. Their target is Ellen County, the absolute greatest weapon production powerhouse of the entire royal court. The land overflows with premium iron mines entirely controlled by an elite guild of legendary artisan blacksmiths. Vale makes one absolutely mind-blowing claim about the place. Over 50% of the royal family's entire arsenal is forged right there in Ellen. Adrien's eyes sparkle with excitement. A sacred land of blades. It's finally time to claim a legendary sword. He originally planned to loot the royal armory, but Carl reminded him that strict royal decrees block him from doing so. His only loophole was hunting for a mighty weapon far beyond the palace walls. Despite his rugged exterior, Vale is surprisingly thoughtful. He orchestrated this entire trip just to arm his nephew. And so, their epic 20-day voyage to Ellen County officially commences. However, Ellen is merely a pit stop. Their true final destination is the legendary Iron Lion Castle located 2 days further away. Once finished, they must return to the capital. But right now, Adrien is completely losing his mind from unbearable carriage boredom. Worse still, Adelia sits opposite him, providing absolutely zero entertainment value. Every single question gets a robotic yes or no. Talk about a total buzzkill. Dying of sheer boredom, Adrien decides to inspect his internal mana heart. Overusing that dragon-slaying hymn completely drained his core. It's high time to recharge his magical batteries. Closing his eyes, he enters deep meditation, absorbing atmospheric mana as the carriage rattles along the lonely path. But then a shocking revelation hits him. His mana heart has massively expanded since his last check. A brilliant system prompt suddenly chimes in. He miraculously survived an extraordinary feat far beyond his normal limits. A colossal presence flashes before him. Adrien realizes this overwhelming fatigue is the heavy price of spamming that legendary dragon-slaying hymn. Ding! The system cheerfully announces his mana heart has leveled up completely, reconstructing his squishy physical body into an absolute powerhouse. His upgraded vessel can now comfortably handle explosive mana output. Boom, he just casually unlocked the legendary sword expert rank. His spiritual connection to the origin is flowing flawlessly now. Even better, those annoying restrictions on his sealed godly authorities have finally shattered. Plus, his previously unlocked skills just received a massive overpowered boost. A thoroughly villainous, utterly satisfied smirk stretches across Adrien's face. Adelia side-eyes him easily, noticing the ridiculous grin plastered on her prince's face. Arriving at Ellen County shortly after, they are greeted by Edgar, the local lord, alongside his overly eager eldest son, Torrance. Adrien politely nods at their warm welcome. Assuming the royal VIP is totally drained, Edgar insists on escorting him straight to his fancy chambers. Strolling through the lavish halls, Adrien quickly spots exactly why this place is famous for being a massive weapons hub. Sadly, he is internally groaning. These so-called premium blades are just glittery garbage, completely useless for surviving a real blood-pumping battlefield. A heavy sigh escapes him. Browsing these shiny toothpicks definitely won't secure the epic legendary weapon he desperately needs. Suddenly, an idea hits. He asks Edgar about the famous local blacksmith guild, receiving an eager nod in response. Forget napping, Adrien immediately demands a detour straight to the fiery guild workshop instead. While walking over, Edgar nervously warns that these crafters are hilariously stubborn, grumpy old men. They literally ignore royalty when holding a hammer. Stepping inside, Adrien is instantly mesmerized by the roaring flames of a massive blasting furnace. Edgar sweats politely, offering to leave if the blazing heat feels too intense. But our boy is completely entranced. The scorching atmosphere triggers hardcore nostalgia from his past life as a literal sword. Suddenly, his attention snaps. Among the sweaty crowd of hammering dudes, one rugged old artisan in the back pulls him in like a magnet. Adrien watches, absolutely starstruck. Every rhythmic strike against the glowing steel perfectly mirrors the brutal, fiery forging of his own past reincarnation. He is practically melting. Adelia frantically wipes the absolute waterfall of sweat currently drenching her prince's face. Her touch finally snaps his mind back to reality. He blinks, realizing he was entirely hypnotized by the fiery spectacle. Right on cue, the panicked guildmaster halts production, screaming at all the grumpy artisans to bow before the royal guest. Edgar desperately tries introducing the sweaty boss, but Adrien brutally ignores him, his eyes completely glued to the legendary grandpa, who refuses to stop hammering. The furious guildmaster spots the lone worker. He aggressively shrieks at the old man, demanding to know what he is doing. He loudly demands the elder drop his tools immediately and bow to the mighty prince. Adrien swiftly intercepts the annoying manager, fiercely protecting the old man's sacred crafting zone. Glancing around, Adrien notices the hilariously grumpy faces of the other smiths. They are absolutely seething about being dragged away from their precious anvils. Adrien is equally annoyed by this ridiculous hassle. He never even asked this bootlicking manager to halt their epic workflow. He coldly orders the sweaty crowd back to their anvils before the fires die out. The terrified gang instantly scrambles away. With the extras gone, Adrien resumes admiring the old grandmaster. Pure, unmatched focus radiates from the elder as he mercilessly beats the glowing iron. Watching this, a bizarre, thrilling chill aggressively zaps down Adrien's spine. Later, Edgar reveals this eccentric master has been repeating a completely insane forging loop. For 6 grueling months, he tirelessly crafts epic blades, only to instantly melt them down. Adrien raises an eyebrow, asking if they were garbage tier. Edgar vehemently shakes his head, claiming every single sword was an absolute god-tier masterpiece. That is exactly why he holds the title of Master Smith. In fact, his recent blades looked flawlessly overpowered, which makes it an absolute mystery why he ruthlessly melts every single one down. Plus, surviving on 0 sleep, for a whole month, the crazy master has been permanently glued to his anvil. Edgar nervously admits they are panicking over the fragile man's health, but Adrien simply smiles, recognizing the fiery soul of a true craftsman. For days, Adrien turns the sweaty forge into his personal hangout spot from dawn until midnight. The focused grandpa just keeps violently hammering away while Adrien quietly fanboys from the corner. The locals were totally sweating over potential royal drama, but shockingly, peace reigned supreme without a single chaotic incident occurring whatsoever. Finally, departure day drops. Adrien pouts, visibly salty that he must leave before witnessing the legendary grandmaster's ultimately completed blade. He turns around dramatically, exiting the fiery forge. To avoid a hangover, he commands his squad to pack up early right after surviving tonight's rowdy farewell party. Edgar was absolutely crushed. He desperately wanted His Royal Highness to witness the Master Smith's completed masterpiece before departing. But later that evening, as Adrien dressed for the banquet, Edgar burst into the room. The legendary blade was finally ready. Adrien sprinted to the forge. The old artisan raised the polished steel high, and a breathtaking, brilliant aura illuminated the entire room. With ultimate reverence, the veteran blacksmith bowed deeply, and offered the magnificent weapon to Adrien. Edgar's jaw hit the floor. Meanwhile, Adrien accepted the blade with the effortless, majestic grace of a true conqueror. When asked if this masterpiece had a title, the old man smiled gently. He planned to name it Twilight. Was it meant for the fading dusk or the breaking dawn? The artisan replied, his dusk was ending, but Adrien's dawn was just beginning. Chuckling at the poetic meaning, Adrien's eyes gleamed with absolute delight. For a hammer-swinging brute, the old man had quite the silver tongue. The artisan laughed weakly, but suddenly collapsed. Adrien caught him before he hit the ground. Frowning, the prince immediately ordered Karl to notify Vale. He would stay by the blacksmith's side tonight. In the quiet room, the dying master confessed a secret. The very moment Adrien arrived, the stubborn steel practically forged itself, recognizing its true master. The blade had literally chosen its own birthday. Stunned by this profound connection, Adrien decided to reward the old man with the ultimate truth. Leaning in close, the prince whispered his greatest secret, his past life identity. The revelation hit the blacksmith like a lightning bolt. Trembling violently on the sheets, the old man gasped. Suddenly a peaceful smile washed over his face. Everything finally made perfect sense. With trembling hands, he asked to hold Twilight one last time. Adrien gently obliged. Channeling his fading life force, the master prayed this blade would mirror the prince's boundless greatness. Gripping his calloused hand, Adrien promised it would. With that vow, the legend peacefully passed away. By morning departure, Edgar arrived, bearing a lavishly wrapped weapon. Smirking confidently, Edgar presented a flashy magic sword. He claimed this enchanted blade was far superior to the old man's simple gift. Adrien unsheathed the weapon, faking an expression of absolute awe at the glowing magical runes. But internally, he scoffed. This shiny toy was barely a mid-tier trinket, utterly pathetic. Still, free loot is free loot. He shamelessly accepted it. Flashing a wicked grin, he thanked Edgar for donating 2 incredible swords. The Ellen family's blind loyalty to the crown was truly touching. Meanwhile, Edgar was mentally screaming. He only brought the flashy toy to trick the prince into returning the masterpiece blade. Instead, he just got scammed out of 2 high-value weapons like an absolute clown. As departure loomed, Vale barked orders. The slow infantry would trail behind, while the elite cavalry pushed forward at breakneck speed. They were dreadfully behind schedule. Every single wasted second was a massive problem right now. Strolling up casually, Adrien playfully mocked the stressed commander for looking so incredibly frantic. The prince noted Vale had been basically invisible all week. Vale admitted the king gave him secret orders. Boom, Adrien realized this vacation was heavily monitored. Vale nodded sternly, urging His Highness to prepare for an immediate intense ride. To reach the formidable Iron Castle by nightfall, the prince would have to ride on horseback. But cue the awkward silence. Adrien awkwardly confessed an embarrassing truth. He had absolutely zero equestrian skills. Hey, cut him some slack. He was literally an inanimate sword a few months ago. Regardless, the chaotic march forward commenced. The journey was an absolute nightmare of bumpy twists. They totally failed the half-day sprint, limping into the fortress after 24 agonizing hours. Stepping before the gates, Adrien whistled. The sheer imposing majesty of the fortress was genuinely breathtaking. A strict formation of elite guards awaited them, spearheaded by the intimidating Count Walladin himself. Adrien instantly felt their suffocating hostile aura. Naturally, instead of diffusing the tension, he decided to troll them completely. Spotting the familiar face of Arwin hiding in the back, he cheerfully summoned her over. Arwin rushed forward, blushing as she bowed and confessed how much she missed him. The surrounding warriors practically exploded with raging jealousy. Sensing this massive disrespect toward her master, Adelia's bloodthirsty killer intent flared up. Adrien quickly caught her deadly glare. He swiftly intervened, gently patting the fierce maid to suppress her violent rage before she massacred everyone. Thank goodness he conditioned her perfect, unquestioning servant loyalty so early on. Smirking, he invited Arwin to chat privately. It was a blatant calculated trap to infuriate the other knights into following him. Minutes later, ditching the royal robes for sleek combat gear, Adrien marched straight into the arena. Staring down the fuming crowd, he loudly requested a demonstration from the Iron Lions. Were they truly the kingdom's greatest blades? Drawing his weapon with a cocky grin, he threw down the gauntlet. Who wanted to get crushed first? But the training grounds remained dead silent. Nobody wants to risk swinging a blade at royalty. Figuring they are terrified of executing a royal, Adrien smirks. He swears upon the family crest that no one will face punishment, no matter how brutal the clash gets. Yet the warriors still hesitate. Rolling his eyes, Adrien ruthlessly taunts them, calling the entire squad a bunch of spineless cowards. That stings. A fiery, red-headed knight completely snaps, stomping forward into the arena to defend his pride. Introducing himself as Dale of Dinant, he humbly admits he isn't the official champion. However, he fiercely challenges the prince, asking if he is worthy to cross blades. Adrien merely chuckles. He waves off the formalities, reminding the furious challenger that he practically begged for a challenger anyway. Surging forward with blazing resentment, Dale screams for the royal to guard his life. He aims a lethal downward strike, but Adrien casually deflects the heavy blow, launching the knight backward effortlessly. Bamdale eats the dirt, instantly unconscious from a single lazy counter. Flashing a devilish grin, Adrien asks the dumbfounded spectators who wants to be his next punching bag. Up steps a brave soul named Paul, and just like that, he is absolutely flattened without an ounce of mercy. The main character begins sweeping through the apprentice squad like he is swatting annoying flies. He is not even breaking a single sweat. Yawning at the mountain of unconscious rookies, Adrien's boredom peaks. He maliciously plots a way to drag the actual high-ranked official knights into this entertaining bloodbath. Inspiration strikes. He loudly calls out for Arwin, boldly declaring that she will be packing her bags to leave alongside him today. Caught off guard, she respectfully lowers her head to accept the command. But before her sentence finishes, a furious, booming voice calls out the prince's name from the shadows. Adrien smirks inwardly. Catching these meatheads is way too easy. A massive, terrifyingly built veteran marches onto the field. Glaring down at the royal, he challenges him to spice up this little spar with a high-stakes gamble. The giant demands Arwin as the victor's prize, but Adrien instantly shoots that garbage down, declaring his subordinate is not some cheap carnival trophy. Flipping the script, our hero proposes a different wager. He snaps his fingers, commanding Carl to fetch Twilight. Unsheathing the magnificent blade, Adrien makes a crazy bet. If this hulking knight wins, that legendary weapon is entirely his. Panic washes over Arwin. Realizing her lord is risking a real deathmatch, she desperately offers herself as the wager instead. Yet Adrien firmly rejects her plea. He gazes back, stating she is infinitely more valuable than any hunk of metal. A future swordmaster's worth utterly eclipses a mere piece of steel. Greedy for the loot, the beast happily accepts. He puffs out his chest, booming his name as Dunham of the prestigious Fahrenheit clan. Flexing his status as an elite warrior, he proudly boasts that his aura is mere inches away from breaking into the legendary third chain. Adrien brutally bursts his bubble, laughing that he is basically still just a pathetic second-tier loser. That trash talk strikes a nerve. Boiling with rage, Dunham flexes his own weapon, bragging that it is the 17th masterpiece forged by the legendary Grandmaster Smith. Confident in his glorious victory, Dunham bets his treasured artifact against the royal prince. A wicked grin spreads across Adrien's face. He reveals his blade shares the exact same creator, but it represents the Grandmaster's monumental 100th creation. Dunham freezes in absolute shock. Rumors of such a mythological milestone blade had never even reached his ignorant ears. Shrugging casually, Adrien pities the fool. How could he know about the blacksmith's ultimate magnum opus finished just 48 hours ago? Explosive energy erupts around Dunham, summoning his full aura. He lectures the royal about walking a crooked path, vowing to discipline him with his absolute maximum power. Calling his destiny misguided, that only makes Adrien's arrogant smirk grow dangerously wider. Ready to dish out true despair, he commands Adelia to glue her eyes to the fight. This absolute domination is the exact path she must follow from today onward. Adelia's heart races as she nods firmly, vowing to absorb every single technique he displays. Scene shift. Inside the dimly lit chambers, Vale meets with the commander. Amazingly, this marks their 4th consecutive expedition to the royal fortress. Word on the street, the 4th prince could not care less about the crown, making his arrival at the stronghold highly unlikely. Yet the political chessboard is shifting. The 3rd and 5th princes crept in during Adrien's exile, and even the elusive 2nd prince recently made an appearance. Gritting his teeth, Wadden confesses a bitter truth. Despite the horrible rumors, Adrien's bloodline keeps him firmly seated as the ultimate legitimate successor. But Wadden aggressively points the finger directly at Vale for this total mess. He ruthlessly scolds the man, claiming that if Vale had just thrown a tiny crumb of support to the 1st prince, the boy would not be so disastrously isolated now. After abandoning the kid for years, Vale's sudden kindness is highly suspicious. Honestly, the guilt eats at Vale. He knows Wadden is entirely correct about his past betrayals. In Vale's eyes, the young heir never possessed the noble heart of a king but the twisted soul of a merciless tyrant. A dark flashback reveals a day he fiercely reprimanded the boy for losing his mind to deeply corrupted forbidden potions. Blinded by madness, Adrien actually swung a deadly blade at his own flesh and blood. From that moment, Vale deemed him complete royal trash. Fleeing to the frosty north in total despair, Vale's nightmare continued. Adrien gleefully shipped him a barrel of lethal poisoned wine, attaching a sickeningly cheerful gift note. Vale chugged the tainted wine without hesitation. Surging his mana, he obliterated the pathetic poison Adrien had slipped into his cup. In that exact moment, his last shred of uncle-nephew affection burned to ashes too. But then this trash-tier relative flipped the script. He morphed into an absolute beast, surviving hellish workouts. Honestly, the kid was leveling up at a terrifying daily pace. Woden completely deadpans, reminding Vale of his own words that punk Adrien must never sit on the throne. But deep down, Vale knows the boy has been reborn. He begs Woden to just give the kid one single shot. Just let him step up to the starting line with the other royal heirs. Woden's jaw practically drops as the proud Vale actually bows in desperation. Totally baffled, Woden rubs his temples. He has zero clue who swapped brains first, the hardened uncle or the garbage prince. Bam. A frantic knight bursts through the doors, screaming about absolute chaos erupting down at the training arena. Strolling toward the yard, Woden chuckles and tells Vale to chill out. There is literally nothing to sweat over. Dunham is a pro who holds back. He swears that even with real steel, the knight wouldn't dare pummel a royal prince into the dirt. But Vale just shoots him a dark look. You shouldn't be praying for the prince, but for your poor knight. Woden scoffs, roasting Vale for losing his marbles. He is pale as a ghost and babbling absolute nonsense. But the second they hit the dirt, Woden's eyes nearly bug out of his skull. Dunham is brutally launched across the yard. He is out cold. Woden stares in pure shock, while Vale just sighs. I literally warned you this would happen. Flashback to the fight, Adrien had remembered his uncle's intense lectures about facing a terrifying double-ring aura knight. It hit him like a truck. His basic hymn of sparring was practically useless here, but dropping the dragon-slaying hymn way too risky. Not against a basic opponent, so he flipped the switch on hyper-focus. The world went dead, silent, his senses detaching completely. His brain basically became a supercomputer. He mapped Dunham's exact attack path, lining up the most beautifully devastating counter-slash ever. Boom, the knight gets launched into orbit, the gauntlet rolls on, but by now Adrien is entirely in the zone. He is swatting down seasoned veterans like annoying flies. When the dust settles, our boy is sitting on a flawless 5-win streak. The arena erupts into crazy cheering, and right on cue, a system alert chimes. Adrien unlocked a hidden verse for his combat hymn. Ding! The skill evolves, shooting straight up into the legendary extraordinary grade. The basic sparring chant transforms into the epic hymn of dueling. Adrien exhales sharply, silently screaming in relief that his crazy gamble actually worked. Completely drained, he collapses to the dirt. A bulky knight immediately sprints over looking dead serious. But instead of attacking, he bows deeply, respecting the glorious win. Suddenly, the entire squad is partying, screaming praises for Adrien's warrior soul. Adrien is utterly mind-blown. Weren't these guys ready to murder him 5 minutes ago? Woden just smirks at Vale. Knights are delightfully meat-headed creatures. Give them a good sword fight and a clean win, and they are happy puppies. Woden teases Adrien, noticing the prince's completely baffled expression. Vale steps up proudly, reminding his nephew an honorable beatdown earns way more respect than a shady win. One guy aggressively pokes fun at the conscious Dunham, laughing that he is the only salty loser here. Since he literally has to hand over that precious sword he never stopped bragging about, Adrien just stands there totally stunned. He really believed he had tossed away all his old combat knowledge when his mana heart shattered. But thankfully, some things never die. Worshipping true strength and swallowing defeat with pride, that is the ironclad romance of knighthood. As Adrien's crew packs up to hit the road, he pulls Woden aside. He commands him to lock down all rumors of his newfound power. Woden tilts his head in confusion. Wouldn't flexing this crazy strength totally fix the prince's garbage reputation back home? But Adrien just flashes a wicked grin. He is keeping this ace up his sleeve to completely troll a certain someone later. Fast forward to a cozy evening camp, Carl eagerly dashes off to scout the perimeter, while Arwin wanders around looking adorably clueless. Adrien chuckles, knowing she will adjust to the wild soon enough. He slips into his tent, only to spot Adelia meticulously folding his laundry. He lets out a massive sigh. He specifically recruited her for her terrifying S-rank combat potential. Yet here she is stuck in total maid mode. He crashes onto his bed while Adelia frantically sweats, wondering if she messed up the folding. Waving her off, he dismisses her for the night. Once alone, Adrien's playful smirk fades as he analyzes those Iron Lion troops. They were glaring anomalies. Back at the fortress, he had secretly activated his Authority of Judgment system window. The glowing text revealed the harsh truth. Almost none of those grunts possessed a talent rating above B grade. In his past life, guys with those trash stats could train until their bones powdered and still never hit the intermediate expert tier. They were destined to be completely forgotten background mob characters. Yet somehow, against all logic, they were currently flexing the overwhelming power of master swordsmen in their 20s or 30s. Basically, the sheer power of superhumans has hilariously tanked beyond all recognition. Meanwhile, ordinary folks got a massive buff. Adrien suddenly realizes this entire mess is thanks to the mana chain. Back then, his uncle would have chased true transcendence. No wonder the old man was absolutely livid that he trashed that golden opportunity. Sadly, this modern era is completely hard-capped. Getting past extraordinary grade is just a total pipe dream. Adrien finally connects the dots to the passage of time. He totally admits he is hopelessly clueless about this generation. Adrien sighs, deciding he has to painfully relearn literally everything from scratch. Right then, Vale dramatically pops up. He boldly insists it is not too late, claiming Adrien can absolutely achieve his grand dream if he just starts grinding from this exact moment. Adrien just blinks, totally clueless about what delusional dream this guy is spouting. Vale smirks, proudly revealing Adrien completely stole the Iron Lion's hearts. Any other stuck-up prince would have instantly failed to vibe with those rough and tough knights so casually. Vale heavily praises him, calling his masterful mingling a super genius move. But Adrien is just sweating, wondering what absolute garbage Vale is rambling about. Adrien flat out asks if he lost his mind, but Vale smugly reminds him about the spicy conditions attached to their previous high-stakes bet. Adrien suddenly remembers that stupid bet with the third prince. He tries arguing, the bet is still ongoing, but Vale sharply cuts him off. The winning condition was simply slapping down a double-chain knight. Reality smacks Adrien right in the face. He accidentally won the whole bet by effortlessly wrecking those knights. Vale then proudly declares he will fiercely honor his sacred promise. He dramatically drops to one knee, swearing absolute loyalty. He vows to officially back Adrien as the true first prince of the kingdom. Adrien violently short-circuits. What does official support even mean? Then the horrifying realization of Vale's grand scheme finally hits him like a massive runaway carriage. Adrien stands completely paralyzed. He literally never once said he actually wanted to be king. Cue absolute chaos. By the time they roll back into the capital, Vale's massive political endorsement has already leaked to everyone. Adrien's chill room gets instantly swarmed by hardcore royal knights, guards, and fanboy attendants. Adrien desperately screams at Carl to kick this annoying mob out before he loses his mind. But Carl sweats bullets, nervously explaining, "They are permanently stuck here by direct royal decree. Barking orders won't work." Adrien furiously begs Carl to just shove them out of his direct line of sight because their constant buzzing is annoying him to absolute death. Carl miraculously manages the impossible, granting Adrien a tiny precious slice of blessed silence. But not even 5 minutes pass before Jillian aggressively kicks the door open. He dramatically accuses Adrien of playing mastermind political chess. He rants that Adrien secretly mastered swordsmanship under veil just to unleash his epic hidden ambitions. Jillian claims he only held back his own awesome power to avoid utterly humiliating his older brother. Adrien just deadpans, sarcastically thanking him from the bottom of his heart for sparing his fragile ego. Jillian completely loses it. He screeches that Adrien messed up big time, vowing brutal revenge for this imaginary supreme deception. Internally, Adrien is raging like a volcano. He blames Vale's big mouth for tricking the whole world into thinking he actually wants that cursed throne. Later, Adrien corners Vale, aggressively whispering that he will only play along with this circus temporarily. He frantically begs Vale to hit the undo button soon, because becoming king sounds like absolute torture. Adrien furiously snaps, demanding to know why Vale launched this wild political scheme. Without asking first, Vale just calmly smirks, asking if Adrien is secretly stressing over the Balorhard family, since they act as the ultimate shield, blocking those terrifying northern mountain monsters. Vale confidently assures his panicking lord that as long as the mighty royal family and the snooty nobles remember the brutal bite of winter, the Balorhard family will remain completely untouchable. Adrien lets out a massive sigh of relief. But Vale drops a reality check, casually revealing this messy succession war was a totally inevitable ticking time bomb anyway. Vale's eyes darken. Does Adrien seriously not know the horrific doom waiting for a firstborn prince who misses the throne? Playing dead will not save him from the guillotine. Vale firmly states he will patiently give his liege as much time as needed to accept this insane new reality. But he drops a chilling truth bomb. The legendary target on a firstborn's back never vanishes unless they literally die. Once Vale dips, Adrien stubbornly crosses his arms, completely refusing to yield. He vows he will never change his mind, even if Vale waits for an entire century. Adrien only cares about one thing: grinding his lost stats back up to his absolute peak, the legendary transcendent tier. Compared to god tier strength, the right of succession to some dusty throne feels like a hilariously trivial side quest. That was his firm mindset, until the highly anticipated mega banquet finally kicks off. The massive doors swing open, and hundreds of hungry eyes lock onto him from the grand balcony. As he majestically strolls down the hall, noble ladies instantly turn beet red, completely swooning as he passes by. Whispers of his breathtaking glow-up echo everywhere. Adrien simply sighs. Are these nobles seriously losing their minds just because he shed some extra pounds? He glances at the so-called high society elites. Activating his system eyes, he instantly pulls up their hidden status windows. Disgust washes over him. Every single one of them shares the exact same rotten title, Heart of a Serpent. It is a filthy karma tag slapped onto absolute scum who drain the innocent and ruthlessly crush the weak underfoot. This sea of garbage makes him sick to his stomach, but wait, a single spotless status screen catches his eye. It belongs to Taylor. Adrien eagerly approaches his lone beacon of hope. Beaming like a golden retriever, Taylor happily expresses his gratitude for the party invite. He might lack real talent, but his soul remains spotless. Adrien smirks inwardly. Perfect innocent pushovers like him are the ultimate blank canvases for his grand master plan of kingdom domination. Suddenly, the royal herald bellows, announcing the arrival of Marquis Montpellier, the absolute big-shot ambassador from the mighty Borgonia Empire. Adrien freezes in pure disbelief. To his absolute horror, every supposedly proud noble instantly grovels like obedient dogs as the Marquis steps out. The smug ambassador struts straight toward our hero, throwing out slimy fake pleasantries about how much he missed his dear old friend. Adrien just stands there, his brain completely short-circuiting. That accursed empire triggers massive past-life trauma. They were the ultimate final boss that he and Leonberg waged endless bloody wars against in his previous life. Blazing fury ignites his core. Just before he unleashes pure hell, an unexpected splash of cold wine drenches his shirt. The clumsy culprit instantly bows in panic. He babbles frantic apologies, claiming he tripped over his own feet, trying to rush over and say hello. But it is a tactical block. He deliberately shoves himself between Adrien and the smirking ambassador. Taking the perfect exit cue, Adrien excuses himself to clean up. The old man bows apologetically, loudly whining about his frail, rusty bones failing him. Carl quickly rushes over to escort his master. As they leave, Adrien quietly demands the clumsy geezer's real identity. Carl leans in and whispers the truth. That tactical wine spiller was none other than Marcus Bielefeld. A smirk breaks across Adrien's face. Finally, a veteran noble with a spine, that perfectly timed distraction successfully doused his blazing, murderous rage. Moments later, a frantic Vale breaches the changing room. Panting heavily, Vale reveals Marcus warned him about the tense standoff, fearing Adrien was about to start a literal war. Feeling the terrifying icy aura still radiating from his friend, Vale gulps. The old man was entirely right. Vale hilariously loses his mind, demanding an explanation, but Adrien calmly waves him off, promising he hasn't gone completely crazy just yet. Yet one burning question still frustrates his mind entirely. Why is that filthy Borgonia empire strutting around like they own the place? Worse, the local aristocrats were wagging their tails for a foreign ambassador harder than they ever did for their own king. This isn't a diplomatic alliance. It is absolute humiliating submission. Locking eyes with Vale, Adrien demands to know how their proud nation fell so low. Sighing deeply, Vale drops a tragic history lesson. Centuries ago, their legendary ancestors heroically crushed every single imperial invasion. But time is cruel. The enemy expanded into a terrifying global juggernaut, outgunned and completely cornered the kingdom, ultimately chose survival over pride, bowing their heads. This pathetic truth deeply shakes Adrien's soul. Back in his glory days, their territory was tiny, yet they possessed a legendary trump card that made the massive empire tremble in absolute fear. Their very foundations were built upon the invincible martial hymns, but now, those sacred heaven-defying arts have been completely wiped from existence. Eyes flashing with resolve, Adrien declares a sudden change of plans. A bewildered Vale frantically asks what crazy idea he has cooked up now. Adrien drops the ultimate bombshell. He will take the throne. Vale's jaw practically hits the floor in shock. This ridiculous power play might bite him later. But destiny calls. He cannot watch this nation crumble, especially since his past life literally built half its damn foundations. Fast forward to day 2, the herald announces Adrien and Vale's entrance into the sparkling royal ballroom. Immediately, a tidal wave of sneers and mocking glares greets him. These spineless bootlickers dare favor a foreign snob over their own blood. A nostalgic memory flashes before his eyes, recalling his former comrades facing the masses. Back then, nobody bet a single coin on his rise to royalty. He was just a scrappy, loudmouth kid from an absolute dirt-poor nowhere village. Against all odds, the mighty Leonberg stood tall before the roaring crowd, mirroring his exact stance today. Since these fools refuse to bow, he will forcefully command their respect. He inhales deeply, preparing the legendary king's hymn. But suddenly, a glowing red system window blocks his vision. Just like his dragon-slaying art, his current measly stats cannot endure its full terrifying might. To avoid self-destruction, he forcefully suppresses the ancient verses, nerfing the output to a mere 25%. Despite the agonizing recoil tearing through his veins, he grins. It is merely a hero-grade skill, not mythic. This level of pain is an absolute cakewalk. Boom, he actually triggers the sacred hymn. A blinding aura crown materializes on his head like absolute royalty, instantly forcing those stuck-up nobles to slam their faces into the floor. Phew, it actually worked, but right as our main character prepares his cool villain speech, a seriously creepy aura sends shivers straight down his spine. He whips around only to discover the mysterious hooded lady is actually a freaking elf. Striding forward, she smirks, utterly shocked that a human still remembers the ancient hymns. Adrien turns into a solid block of ice. That terrifying presence, she is definitely no ordinary forest dweller. Pure, unadulterated panic completely hijacked his nervous system. Why on earth is this absolute psycho from his past crashing the party? Sure, regular folks think elves are gentle, tree-hugging pacifists who would not hurt a single fly. Reality check. They are vicious predators, weaponizing their flawless visuals to completely annihilate their enemies. High elves literally spawn with hero-tier stats, making them the absolute final bosses of their species. Staring at this menacing beauty, Adrien's trauma flares up. She is way worse than just high tier. This ancient menace has survived over a millennium. Yep, she is a legendary elder high elf. Meet Sigrun, the infamous dancing magic swordswoman. 4 centuries ago, this absolute unit casually joined the raid party that butchered the legendary Mad Dragon. In his past, she obsessively tried brainwashing him into her personal living weapon, promising endless glory. Her hardcore training methods left him with severe, incurable post-traumatic stress. Cold sweat drips down his face. Did chanting that royal hymn just blow his cover completely? Sigrun leans in asking if they have met. Adrien shakes his head so fast he nearly gets whiplash, but her glowing eyes narrow. This peculiar human is way too suspicious. He desperately plays the innocent fanboy, claiming he has never seen a real elf. She absolutely buys none of it. His internal alarms are screaming. She was an overpowered monster in his past life, and she is definitely just as terrifying now. With a chilling smile, she bluntly calls out his shameless lie. First-time elf encounters always trigger one of 2 very specific human reactions. Normal plebs drool over their beauty, while actual martial arts masters instinctively brace for combat. And looking at scrawny little Adrien, she knows damn well he lacks that warrior instinct. Adrien nervously claims his edgy vibe is just because she is not his type. Amused Sigrun gracefully backs off, dropping a chillingly polite farewell before stepping away. He instantly deflates, thanking the heavens he actually survived that terrifying boss encounter. Meanwhile, the royal mother literally summons a massive catalog of potential brides for our panicked prince. The casting call is wild. There is zero age limit, somehow featuring a literal toddler and a grumpy grandma. Queen Margarita spots his absolute disgust, boldly roasting him for expecting his usual high society supermodels. Suddenly, guards announce the elf squad demands an audience. Naturally, Her Majesty rolls out the red carpet. The gorgeous elves swagger inside, with Sigrun flashing a criminally smooth bow to the throne. Margarita's jaw drops, forest folk voluntarily visiting the human capital that has not happened in ages. With a sly grin, Sigrun drops the bomb. She totally knows about this bizarre royal matchmaking event. Flexing her insane status, she casually mentions her high elf rank, basically claiming super elite aristocratic privilege. Adrien's brain completely short-circuits. What on earth is this crazy ancient lady plotting now? Then she hits them with the ultimate joke, claiming their ages are practically identical. Adrien nearly coughs up blood. They have a literal millennium gap. How can she spout such absolute garbage? She shamelessly flexes her eternal youth, bragging about her massive personal army of devoted followers. Delivering the finishing blow, she claims their destinies magically collided the second their eyes locked. Panic mode activated elves physically cannot lie about destiny. Is this psycho actually being 100% serious right now? The entire throne room descends into absolute chaos. A human marrying an elf? That is historically unheard of. Snapping out of it, Adrien grabs her wrist, dragging her away for an emergency private chat. He physically hauls her out, leaving the gossiping nobles to imagine the spiciest royal scandals. Cornering her in a quiet hallway, he demands the truth. She just flashes a suspicious smile, claiming pure diplomatic intentions. Not buying her nonsense, he pushes harder, aggressively dropping her hidden Elder High Elf title. He stares her down, revealing he knows her terrifying secret job as a literal executioner. The ultimate shadow assassin who cleans up clan, messes the legendary Blade of the Mistletoe. Adrien glares, asking straight up, "Is this a casual background check or my actual execution?" The crazy elf's eyes widen. How on earth does this supposedly clueless prince know her secret identity? Adrien keeps his mouth totally shut. Fighting her right now would be absolute hilarious suicide. Sensing his twisted destiny means her power level is insanely high. She can literally peek into the past carved into his very soul. Boom, Sigrun's monstrous aura suffocates the room. She smirks, calling him a total idiot for staying silent when he knows exactly who is standing there. Adrien fires right back. He knows perfectly well how terrifying an executioner truly is. That is exactly why he kept quiet. He orders the elf to drop the playful act and seriously back off from messing with his destiny. He sees right through her. Right now, this overpowered weirdo is just dangerously curious about him. If he lets this drag on, this absolute lunatic of an elf will shred his future into tiny, miserable pieces. Time for a crazy survival strategy. He needs to make her dangerously obsessed with him instead. The ultimate goal: stay alive long enough to become a masterfully cooked delicacy she cannot resist. She creeps uncomfortably close. "Who are you?" she whispers. "Just your everyday pathetic royal prince," he smoothly replies. The elf grins, asking about the hidden soul inside him. Adrien simply smirks. "You will just have to wait and see." She laughs, admitting she knew things were fishy. The higher-ups would never send a total powerhouse like her on some garbage-tier kingdom mission. It was all because of his anomaly. Adrien sweats profusely. Yep, this woman is exactly the same creepy stalker elf from his memories. Suddenly, they stroll back inside, holding hands, completely shocking everyone in the grand hall. Adrien drags the lunatic elf straight to the queen, announcing he is dropping some major life-altering news. Boom, he declares he is getting engaged to Sigrun. Internally, he is dry-heaving at having to say her name with so much fake romance. But what else can he do? Defying this overpowered elf right now means instant painful death. This ridiculous fake engagement is his only play. He needs to buy time, even just a little bit. The queen is absolutely flabbergasted. Playing it cool, Adrien smoothly suggests they take their time with such a monumental royal decision. He promises a careful observation period. The calculating queen nods, totally falling for his stall tactics as the smartest political move. Adrien smirks inwardly. His mother will definitely waste this time crunching the political math on this bizarre elf union. Meanwhile, the crazy elf stalker will be busy preparing her favorite 5-star meal, which unfortunately is him. And our main character, he is going to grind his stats like crazy to outrun this terrifying, absolutely unhinged bride-to-be. Cut to Jillian. The dumb brother is throwing a massive tantrum in his room, screaming that Adrien is pure garbage with only royal blood. He is foaming at the mouth, stealing his supporters, getting backing from heavyweights, and straight up claiming Arwin like a boss. Unacceptable. As if that was not infuriating enough, Jillian is utterly losing his mind. Now Adrien is bagging the overpowered elf too. Filled with pure jealousy, Jillian decides to brutally humble him in their scheduled duel. His evil master plan crush Adrien's family jewels during combat outright murder would cause way too much annoying political drama. He just wants to absolutely destroy Adrien's manhood. Fast forward to the arena, where the terrifying Knight Commander Sturmhilde oversees this ridiculous grudge match. The king himself gave absolute authority for this bout. Whatever brutal, embarrassing outcome happens here is final and totally unquestionable. The muscular commander barks out, "Princes, raise your blades." But Adrien is completely yawning. He could not care less about this overly dramatic build-up for a basic low-level sparring match. Meanwhile, the idiot brother is loudly monologuing about crushing him. The clown even brought an entire audience of snobby nobles. Adrien sighs, dropping the ultimate disrespect. "You talk way too much." Jillian instantly loses his absolute mind with blazing fury. The foolish prince aggressively sucks in ambient mana. He screams that Adrien will not be acting so smug after his face is completely caved in. Jillian charges like a rabid dog. Adrien wanted to troll him a bit, but honestly, he has zero time for this nonsense. Whoosh! One effortless strike, Adrien casually cuts him down instantly, knocking the arrogant fool completely unconscious. Silence drops. The snobby nobles and the hardcore commander are absolutely paralyzed by the hilarious one-shot knockout they just witnessed. Their brains short-circuit. Is this really the trash prince? The commander quickly shakes off the shock, loudly crowning Adrien the flawless victor. Adrien just yawns and strolls right out of there. He scoffs in total disgust. These grown adults seriously cleared their schedules to watch kids fight. Pathetic. The VIP crowd is literally sweating bullets. Their promising golden boy just got utterly humiliated in record time. The craziest part, this supposed trash prince has barely been training his sword skills for a few short months. Jillian snaps awake, head covered in bandages, instantly roaring for a rematch. He orders his servants to fetch his gear to settle the score once and for all. But his servants nervously break the news. His rival had already ditched the capital with Vale right after their clash. Baffled, Jillian demands his location. The target, the frozen northern lands of the Balorhard clan. Meanwhile, Vale openly praises Adrien's progress. Noting his impressive horseback riding, Adrien immediately lets the compliment inflate his massive ego. Vale instantly regrets opening his mouth. Humility simply does not exist in this guy's dictionary. Sighing, Vale asks why they are rushing. The banquet just ended, so resting a few days made more sense. Adrien scoffs. The capital holds nothing for him, and kissing up to garbage nobles sounds utterly exhausting. He firmly believes gritty soldiers and loyal knights fit his vibe better. Vale warns that while knights aren't scheming snakes, they are fiercely stubborn. Earning their respect won't be a simple walk in the park. Adrien smirks, fully confident that a little bonding time will naturally win them over. But internally, he is panicking. Marrying Sigrun means certain doom, since all her past flames ended up completely destroyed. He desperately needs explosive power growth, which is totally impossible in the soft, peaceful capital. To sharpen his blade and break his limits, he must dive straight into humanity's most brutal testing grounds. The birthplace of epic martial legends. The absolute chaos of the blood-stained battlefield. Approaching a massive gorge, Vale proudly announces that his family defends these very valleys. Hilariously, Adrien immediately whines about the freezing wind, prompting Vale to offer him a cozy carriage ride. Shivering, he stubbornly refuses. He needs to conquer this freezing hellscape firsthand. Out of nowhere, Nicolo pops up. The old man tagged along to research a book that supposedly helps Adrien. Adrien completely ignores the old eccentric's nonsense, instead noticing Arwin looking incredibly focused up ahead. When he checks on her, she flashes a radiant smile, claiming she is perfectly fine. He offers to take the brutal vanguard spot, but Arwin strictly rejects it. True knights never chase easy comfort. Adrien smiles warmly. Among this entire squad, Arwin's burning passion outshines them all. Meanwhile, the remaining knights angrily sulk, utterly bitter about being dragged into this frozen wasteland by royal command. Karl could have easily kept these guys in line, but the petty king banned his right-hand man from tagging along. The ruler even mocked Adrien's attempts to build his own personal knightly faction. Sure, the former scoundrel prince caused massive headaches, but Adrien feels this royal grudge is ridiculously petty. Still, he suspects a deeper hidden motive lurking behind the king's annoying decisions. Suddenly, Vale spots an ominous white wave descending the peaks. He urgently barks at everyone to move faster. But in mere seconds, gentle snowflakes mutate into a raging, blinding snowstorm. The roaring winds become utterly deafening, drowning out the desperate screams of the person right next to you. Sensing deadly peril, Vale infuses raw mana into his vocal cords, commanding everyone to ditch the carriages instantly. Survival demands traveling light. As men scramble on foot, Adrien dashes forward to rip Adelia from her transport. The violent gales toss royal knights like ragdolls. Adrien furiously roars at them to drop their heavy shields. He commands them to abandon all deadweight immediately, promising they will retrieve the gear once they survive this hell. Taking charge, Adrien points at the absolute biggest warrior to break the brutal winds up front. The seasoned Northern Knights stand absolutely stunned. The young noble is flawlessly commanding the chaotic crisis before they even could. Pushing through the catastrophic whiteout, a frozen royal knight suddenly collapses into the snow. Without a single second of hesitation, Adrien heaves the fallen man over his shoulder, screaming at the squad to keep marching. The very moment they finally stumble toward the fortress gates, the apocalyptic blizzard vanishes like magic. A blindingly clear sky emerges mockingly, pretending that they did not just survive a terrifying brush with death. Stepping up with overwhelming lordly aura, Vale officially welcomes Adrien to his mighty domain, the Winter Castle. This legendary stronghold anchors the absolute northern edge of the kingdom, serving as the ultimate shield against the monstrous Blade Mountains. For regular soldiers, guarding this frozen hellscape is an absolute nightmare. Cowards pray to escape it, and greedy nobles constantly plot around it. But for the fierce warriors born within these icy walls, it is their ultimate lifelong pride. Right on cue, the massive fortress gates groan open. Enter Vincent Vale's proud son. Saluting sharply, he officially transfers authority back to his old man, resuming his badass role as Ranger Commander. Vale warmly praises his boy's hard work, but honestly, Vincent is just secretly crying tears of joy that his dad survived. Cue Adrien loudly interrupting. "Wait, uncle, you actually have a kid." Vale deadpans, asking if a guy his age wouldn't have reproduced by now. Adrien just smirks, roasting them both. "Yep, I see the family resemblance. You both share that exact same grumpy pout." Vincent visibly short-circuits. Recovering his composure, he awkwardly bows to the notorious First Prince. Adrien tosses a lazy, cheerful greeting. Meanwhile, Vincent's internal monologue is screaming, "Why on earth is this royal trash lingering in their sacred winter stronghold?" A knight politely offers the royal a grand tour, but Vincent's brain is absolutely glitching. Why would his legendary dad drag this walking disaster home? Confronting his dad, Vincent demands answers. Vale drops an absolute bombshell. "The rumors are true, son. I am officially this kid's guardian now. And yes, he will be crashing at our castle indefinitely." Vincent's jaw hits the floor. Dad the king literally threw this guy away like garbage. Unbothered, Vale drops some dad wisdom. "People evolve, son." He then hits Vincent with a seemingly impossible favor. "Just watch him without bias," he asks. Later, father and son hold a serious tactical briefing, catching up on the fortress's status. Vincent proudly reports their success in wiping out monster camps. However, a few pesky blind spots remain completely uncleared. Now that the boss is back, he wants to speed-run the cleanup operation. The briefing flows smoothly until a massive roadblock pops up. Those totally annoying thick-skulled orcs. A rogue squad of 20 green skins recently decided to aggressively squat right near the mountain's front door. "Honestly, our ranger arrows alone will barely tickle a mob that size," he sighs in frustration. So he's currently drafting heavy-hitting fortress knights to violently evict them. Suddenly, Adrien casually volunteers for pest control. Vincent immediately panics. "Are you crazy? Blade Mountain orcs are built differently. They aren't your basic tutorial mobs. If you mess this up, you'll ruin our entire ranger supply chain." Totally ignoring the screaming commander, Adrien gives his uncle puppy dog eyes. He completely milks that family privilege. Ignoring his son's meltdown, Vale asks a tactical question. "Are we absolutely certain about their power levels?" Max 20 grunts. Vincent grits his teeth. "But honestly, we haven't verified if any crazy shamans or elite warriors are hiding among them. We can't rule out mini-bosses." Vale casually asks if Adrien feels lucky. Vincent instantly loses his absolute mind, screaming his dad's name in pure horror. "Dad, that entrance is literally our VIP Ranger highway. If this idiot triggers a massive turf war, our future missions will become absolute nightmare difficulty. Plus, if the prince dies, our whole family is getting executed." Hiding a smirk, Adrien nods internally. Wow, uncle actually raised a kid with a working brain. Shutting down his son's rant, Vale asks for Adrien's shopping list. "Just 3 local guides," Adrien grins, "and fully upgrade my guard's trash gear. Done." "That's a piece of cake," Vale agrees effortlessly. Hearing this, Vincent's soul practically leaves his physical body in shock. Cut to Adrien confronting his lazy royal guards. "Listen up, meat shields, we finally got a quest." The guard captain's jaw drops. "Wait, what? What on earth are you blabbering about?" Adrien beams a wicked smile. "We are going on a fun little orc hunt. Just 20 mobs. Maybe a hidden elite or shaman, no big deal." The captain sweats buckets, complaining bitterly. "We are just your bodyguards. Isn't pest control literally the 3rd Legion's job?" Adrien flips the logic perfectly. "Exactly. You're my bodyguards. So where I go, you poor suckers follow." Strolling away like a boss, he tosses a command over his shoulder. "Grab your shiny new gear from the Legion and assemble outside." Honestly, Adrien absolutely despises these king-appointed spies. But free manpower is free manpower, and he plans to squeeze them dry. Sure, they cried like babies during the blizzard, but his system reveals their combat stats are surprisingly beefy. Hand-picked royal elites after all. Still, his eyes narrow at a suspicious redhead. That guy literally has a disguise trait. Seriously, what kind of shady anime plot is this dude hiding? Quest departure time arrives, but Adrien nearly trips when he sees his official tour guide. It's a scowling Vincent. Vincent glares daggers at him. A fail state here destroys our operations. I refuse to let a rookie ruin everything. Relax, my squad never fails, Adrien smirks confidently. But Vincent just snorts. He wouldn't trust this trash prince to walk a dog. Adrien attempted his judgment authority on Vincent only to hit an absolute wall. He sweated, wondering, is this monster already a triple chain knight? Worse yet, scanning Vincent's supposed ranger squad revealed a hilarious truth. Only one was legit. The rest were elite knights, just cosplaying as forest rangers. Clearly, they had packed a ridiculous backup plan just in case this whole expedition completely went south. Whatever. Adrien swallowed his complaints, letting the sketchy disguise slide as the expedition party finally marched out. He turned to Adelia, firmly forbidding her from joining the dangerous trip. If her chaotic trait awakened the wrong way out here, absolute disaster. Trudging through the freezing forest, Vincent went full drill instructor mode. He lectured the group to conserve stamina, warning that frozen limbs would guarantee a pathetic death in battle. The guy just kept rambling about endless survival basics. Adrien internally groaned, wishing for death. This dude's endless nagging was honestly worse than his own father's. Suddenly a snow rabbit bolted past. Instantly a ranger whipped out a telescope to scan the frosty horizon. Target spotted. An orc scouting party was blocking their path. The ranger turned to Adrien, awaiting his absolute command. Bows drawn, Adrien commanded, sparking immediate tension. He casually strolled to the front lines, instantly pissing off a massive snarling orc. A beautifully wicked grin stretched across Adrien's face. It had been way too long since he tasted real monster blood. The greenskin roared dramatically, puffing out its chest to play the brave hero for its ugly comrades. Fire, Adrien yelled, and a storm of arrows turned the hero orc into a pincushion. Drawing his blade, absolute chaos finally erupted. Thrilled to his very core, Adrien leaped directly into the monster swarm with a terrifyingly joyous smile. One clean swing obliterated the beast. As hot green blood melted the snow, Adrien finally realized what his battle-starved soul truly craved. Glaring at the surviving monsters, a sick thrill washed over him. The metallic stench of the battlefield was pure ecstasy. Panicking for his life, Arwin tried to rush forward, but Adrien violently screamed back, warning her to stay away from the absolute bloodbath he was about to unleash. This madness echoed a 400-year-old legend. Back then, orcs were not mere beasts, but arrogant conquerors ruling the entire continent. This was no glorious hero's myth. It was the buried truth of a nameless warrior forgotten by history, the dark, tragic hymn of a broken man whose absolute hatred for orcs defied death itself. A grieving father who slaughtered greenskins until his muscles gave out. He piled up monstrous corpses into actual mountains, writing the bloody epic of an unparalleled avenger. Uttering those legendary verses triggered the system. Recognizing the hymn of vengeance, a suffocating blood-red aura violently exploded from Adrien's body. Before this northern raid, that red-haired guy with the disguise skill had struck a shady deal with the royal court's count. The sneaky noble basically bribed him to act as a rat spying on the prince's every northern move. Those fools wrongly assumed Adrien would just cower in some safe castle, shamelessly stealing credit for other knights' hard-earned victories. But witnessing the real battlefield, the spy was absolutely paralyzed by the absolute slaughter Adrien was inflicting on the poor orcs. The terrified rat froze completely. He was trembling so pathetically that he could not even grip his own spear properly. Just as he finally willed his legs to work, a towering orc completely shattered his fragile ego, effortlessly snatching his spear away. The guy practically soiled himself accepting death, but like a flash of lightning, Arwin descended ruthlessly, severing the monster's arm before instantly claiming its ugly head. He pathetically collapsed in pure terror as the severed limb, still clutching his stolen spear, heavily crashed right in front of him. Arwin glared at the shivering mess, coldly reminding him that dropping your weapon on an active battlefield is a complete joke. Sweating bullets, the spy frantically nodded. With natural authority, Arwin immediately rallied the royal guards, shifting them into an unbreakable battle formation against the monstrous horde. Yet internally, Arwin was sweating. The greenskin swarm was massive, and their tiny squad was absurdly outnumbered for an actual head-on clash. Suddenly, an ominous, spine-chilling pressure violently erupted nearby. Before anyone could even blink, the vanguard orc was instantly completely vaporized by Adrien's beautifully flawless, devastating sword strike. Showered in gore, Adrien radiated a horrifying demonic aura. Arwin could literally smell his thick, pure, unadulterated bloodlust. She desperately screamed his name, but totally ignoring her, he explosively dashed straight into the monstrous horde. Butchering greenskins like cattle, memories of that ancient avenger surged. That legend slaughtered thousands, yet the bloody vengeance was never truly satisfied. Driven by endless wrath, that warrior stalked the barren wastelands. He hunted his sworn enemies relentlessly, leaving massive mountains of mangled orc corpses in his brutal wake. Even when his heart's mana completely dried up, the madman refused to stop. He survived by literally drinking vile orc blood and ripping their flesh with his jagged blade. Naturally, his mortal body decayed with every agonizing step. Yet the cursed demonic sword he wielded, the infamous Gruhorn, forcefully kept his broken soul tethered to reality. Gruhorn scorched his remaining life force to fuel his final revenge. Because this entire bloody crusade, it was all born from the agonizing grief of watching orcs brutally slaughter his beloved wife and innocent daughter. Destiny finally brought him before his eternal nightmare, the Orc King. However, his former legendary strength had withered to a mere whisper. Despite his shattered core, he charged headfirst into the jaws of absolute terror. He launched himself at the behemoth, but massive hands snatched him mid-air, crushing his bones. No divine intervention descended. Yet even as his life force faded, his unyielding spirit burned bright. He glared into the monster's eyes. Only his demonic blade Gruhorn remained as the sole witness to his silent, tragic finale. Snapped back to reality, Adrien stood amidst a sea of slaughtered orcs, carrying the heavy burden of that forgotten hero's agony. Catching his breath, he noticed the exhausted knights desperately pushing back the monstrous tide. A chilling realization hit him. The hymn of vengeance lacked its final note. Instantly blazing bloodlust ignited his soul once more. Knowing he must deliver the final verse, he plunged straight into the horde, slicing through thick monster hide like absolute paper. He became a predator among prey, crimson eyes glowing through the metallic stench of carnage, making him the true battlefield monster. Ding! The system's familiar chime echoed. A deadly new verse had officially joined his revenge playlist. He literally sculpted a horrifying mountain out of dead bodies, surrounded by a grotesque, bubbling lake of crimson. Through this sheer massacre, his lethal skill spectacularly evolved into the hymn of Requiem. As the final monster fell, Vincent boldly marched to the enemy flag, snapping it cleanly to declare their total domination. Hoisting the broken standard high, his thunderous roar of triumph echoed, followed by the deafening cheers of his weary knights. Panting softly, Adrien finally took a good hard look at his commanding officer. This guy was the golden boy of a legendary monster-hunting bloodline. Wildly enough, they shared the exact same name as the fallen hero who traded his life to butcher these beasts. That legendary warrior promised to return from the grave. Could this stoic noble actually be his badass reincarnation? Vincent casually strolled over. When Adrien raised an eyebrow, the commander shoved the shredded flag into his chest, rewarding the battlefield's absolute MVP. It was a sacred 3rd Legion custom, an irreplaceable badge of sheer badassery that gold could never buy. Without a shadow of a doubt, he had earned the ultimate bragging rights. Suddenly, Arwin called out. Placing a hand over her heart, she bowed in deep, genuine reverence. Like falling dominoes, every single knight hit the dirt, honoring his absolutely insane display of courage. Caught totally off guard, he barely opened his mouth before Vincent barked, telling him to scream it from his chest. Flashing a cocky ear-to-ear grin, he sucked in massive air and shattered the sky with a glorious victory howl. The entire squad erupted, chanting his name like a newfound god of war. Intoxicated by the sweet taste of glory, the ego trip immediately kicked in. He relentlessly flaunted his shiny new trophy. Mid-flex Vincent completely deadpanned, pointing out he personally owned 16 of them. But our boy completely ignored the reality check. Vincent just sighed heavily, instantly recalling exactly why this cheeky brat annoyed him so much. As dusk fell, raging pyres lit up the sky to honor their fallen brothers in arms. Watching the flames, Vincent casually noted that losing so few against elite forces was actually a massive miracle. That cold math did not comfort our hero, while Arwin softly mourned the devastating loss of life. But the stoic leader scoffed. Total victory was their true eulogy. Washing away grief with monster blood was the ultimate Valorheart tradition. Narrowing his eyes, Adrien studied his captain. The eerie parallels between him and the legendary martyr were becoming way too suspicious. Could this arrogant noble really be the reborn soul of vengeance? Shaking it off, he suddenly noticed the massive crowd. Did they really march out of the gates with an entire hidden army? Averting his gaze defensively, Vincent awkwardly lied about a convenient ranger squad just happening to stroll past. Calling his bluff instantly, our cheeky hero relentlessly mocked his ridiculously fake excuse. In reality, he knew the truth. The cautious bastard had secretly deployed backup because he didn't trust the rookie yet. Deflecting the banter, Vincent noted the unsettling mystery of why an elite monster squad pushed so deep into human territory. Even worse, they had somehow bypassed their entire scouting network. Sensing danger, he immediately ordered a rapid march home. Hitting the stronghold, Lord Vale himself rolled out the red carpet, but mid-speech, our shameless protagonist aggressively waved his trophy flag. The garrison's jaws hit the floor. Earning a sacred standard on your very first rookie mission was absolute madness. Meanwhile, his own party members were physically groaning. That was literally the 11th time he shamelessly bragged about it today. Vincent totally ghosts him, marching straight to his old man to report some seriously sketchy vibes up in the mountains. He drops the bomb. A nasty orc death squad crashed the party way too early, breathing right down the scouts' necks, Vale's sweating bullets. Either they stumbled onto a massive monster buffet or something sinister woke up deep inside. Both options scream absolute disaster. Even though his kid clearly needs a nap, Vale drags him along anyway. When duty calls beauty, sleep gets tossed out the window. Passing by Vincent actually throws Adrien a bone, praising his solid grunt work. Cue Adelia. She completely bulldozes out to greet her master, practically crying happy tears that he survived. She blabbers on about her heart doing backflips, terrified he might have kicked the bucket out there. But before she even finishes her dramatic relief speech, Adrien blatantly flexes his captured banner. Fast forward to midnight. Vincent randomly crashes Adrien's room, announcing a brand new Ranger Suicide Squad is assembling soon. Their glorious mission, poking the hornet's nest up in those creepy mountains, totally blind to whatever nightmare fuel awaits them. Vincent smugly adds they only want top-tier pros for this meat grinder, meaning a rookie like Adrien gets to stay home safely. Adrien absolutely shatters his ego, casually yawning that he literally couldn't care less anyway. He then roasts Vincent. Why play messenger boy if I'm not invited? Cornered Vincent awkwardly mutters that Vale literally forced him to do it. Adrien instantly connects the dots. The old man's playing matchmaker for a bromance. Honestly, Adrien's totally cool with playing along. He shoos Vincent away like a pesky fly. Why? Because he's busy fanboying over his loot, happily staring at that banner like a total weirdo. Left alone, Adrien rewinds the epic smackdown in his head. Man, he was completely in the zone. The adrenaline rush totally happened because he flawlessly spit fire, reciting an ancient martial track without stuttering a single lyric. He smirks, betting his life that this overpowered main character feeling is just getting started. But singing covers is lame. Adrien decides it's time to remix the entire martial playlist himself. He wants full copyright ownership, just like how he famously revamped the Vengeance track into the Ultimate Requiem remix. Out of nowhere, a freaky-looking pigeon crash lands on his window. One glance and he knows this ain't your average street fowl. Judging by the sheer absurdity of the messenger, Adrien instantly guesses the sender. Yup, it's that crazy elf Sigrin. Sigrin literally uses the bird as a weird, magical walkie-talkie, playfully asking if he enjoyed her little care package. Plot twist. Sigrin totally spawned those ugly orcs just to spice up his day. She gleefully claims she was just playing matchmaker, hooking Adrien up with punching bags exactly on his level. She desperately wants a 5-star review for her gift, but Adrien is absolutely losing his mind. She literally tossed dozens of rangers into a meat grinder, and she's expecting a thank you card. Absolute psychopath. Turns out elves are basically popcorn-munching drama addicts. Adrien realizes this twisted elf probably brought snacks just to watch him violently struggle against her handcrafted orc surprise party. Sigrin shamelessly admits she was heavily fangirling over his anti-orc diss track. In her delusional mind, chucking monsters at him was pure wholesome charity. Adrien is so done with her psychotic podcast, he bluntly tells her to skip to the end. She whines about his frosty attitude like a rejected side character, swearing she'll patiently wait until he finally catches feelings for her. The creepy bird suddenly hops onto his arm. Dropping the comedy, Sigrin whispers that some epic loot is hiding deep inside those cursed mountains. She hypes it up as some ancient, overpowered boss monster currently taking a massive dirt nap. She promises that if he harvests its lore for his next song, it'll be a chart-topping god-tier martial banger. Okay, now she has his attention, but just as the plot thickens, Sigrin cheerfully mentions her feathered drone is out of battery. Boom! The crazy bird literally self-destructs, splattering nasty guts and hot blood straight into his perfectly good face. Wiping gore off his eyes, Adrien figures out she definitely rigged it just to troll him. Plus, her real motive is painfully obvious. This crazy fangirl wants him to drop a brand new exclusive album of martial hymns. Elves can sing perfectly, but creating original tracks, zero talent. They basically pirate human music, remix it into elven beats, and wildly flash mob with their glowing swords. Dropping these juicy hints was purely a selfish VIP pass to eventually steal a much spicier masterpiece from him. Whatever, he'll bite the hook just this once. Later, he casually brings it up to Vincent, who immediately panics, swearing they never go deep inside. Vincent nervously sweats, explaining they strictly hug the kiddie pool edges. Why? Because exploring the deep end has a literal 0% survival rate. Adrien literally does a double take. Wait, what did you just say? Vincent aggressively doubles down. Nobody survives. Their boring job is just being a bouncer for monsters leaving the club, not raiding the deadly VIP lounge. Adrien instantly realizes the hilarious truth. Literally, nobody knows what's hiding inside those inner mountains. He deduces that ancient try-hard knights practically vacuumed up every mystical wonder just to reach the absolute pinnacle of power. Yet miraculously, this totally sketchy forbidden zone somehow survived the looting spree. A sly grin creeps onto his face. Jackpot choosing Balor hard was an absolute masterstroke. Vincent nervously warns him to forget about exploring that death trap. Adrien brushes him off with a cheeky, "Don't worry, not yet anyway." Later, he casually polishes his blade, his mind buzzing with wild theories about the mountain's hidden loot. His gamer instincts scream at him to rush the boss zone, but he holds back. First, he needs to grind more battles and stack those glorious victories. Luckily, he doesn't have to wait long. Winter Castle is literally a buffet of endless chaotic warfare. Right on cue, the emergency alarm violently shatters the peace. Talk about perfect timing for a raid. Panicked soldiers desperately scramble to defend the towering walls. Meanwhile, Adrien smoothly sprints straight toward Vale's position. Vale points out toward the freezing horizon. 3 exhausted rangers are sprinting like their lives depend on it. Seriously, what kind of nightmare is chasing them? The guards scream at them to hurry. Suddenly, the terrifying pursuers burst from the snowstorm. Giant, bloodthirsty orcs riding atop absolutely massive, savage wolves. The frustrated defenders can only watch helplessly. The fleeing targets are still way outside their archers' striking distance. As the desperate chase drags on, Adrien's sharp eyes narrow. Hang on, this whole setup smells incredibly fishy. Vale bitterly agrees. Those insanely fast wolf riders are literally just playing with their food. They could have closed that pathetic gap ages ago. Suddenly, the heroic squad captain makes a suicidal decision to buy his fleeing team some precious seconds. He spins around, screaming for his men to escape, but his epic moment of bravery is brutally cut short as a monstrous wolf instantly shreds him to pieces. The loyal teammates, who foolishly stayed behind to fight, instantly captured without a sweat. Hot-headed Vincent prepares to blindly leap off the wall, but Adrien smoothly grabs him. "Relax," he smirks. "They aren't executing anyone. These meatheads are literally challenging us to a formal duel." Bam! The hulking orc leader viciously slams his gruesome skull banner straight into the dirt, attempting to radiate pure, terrifying dominance over the humans. The moment Adrien spots that specific emblem, the ultimate puzzle piece finally clicks into place. The legendary Orc King is hiding there. Suddenly, the massive captain violently roars in guttural Orcish. He aggressively demands a glorious duel of honor, all to reclaim his disgraced legion's reputation for his almighty ruler. Vale stares in absolute disbelief. "Are you seriously telling me they want a hostage duel?" Adrien just gives a confident nod. Both Vale and Vincent look at him like he suddenly grew a second head. Since logic isn't working on these guys, Adrien decides an epic demonstration is required. Stepping up to the ledge, our guy casually responds in absolutely flawless, booming Orcish. "Challenge accepted, Greenskin." Adrien fiercely barks that non-combatants must retreat exactly 200 paces. "Oh, and tell your boys to get off those giant puppies." The fearsome orc leader visibly glitches out. His jaw hits the snowy floor. How does a measly human speak our sacred ancient tongue so perfectly? "Do you secretly possess the blood of our mighty warriors?" Adrien shuts down that ridiculous anime trope instantly. "Nope, definitely all human here, buddy." Losing his patience, Adrien yells back, "Are we doing this fight or what? Accept my terms." Intimidated by the sheer audacity, the hulking captain awkwardly agrees to follow his exact rules. However, he throws in an aggressive warning. If the humans dare try any dirty tricks during this sacred combat, it's totally over for them. With negotiations hilariously wrapped up, Adrien flashes a smug look at his dumbfounded commanders. "Believe me now," but grumpy old Vale just scoffs, convinced Adrien is just making up absolute gibberish. But before Vale can finish complaining, the entire terrifying orc vanguard obediently marches backward, leaving behind only 5 massive warriors ready to brutally throw down. Vale's eyes practically bulge out of his skull in utter disbelief. He has defended this frozen fortress for dozens of miserable winters, yet he has literally never seen these bloodthirsty monsters willingly take a step backward. Adrien chuckles, telling the old man to pick his jaw up. Save the shock, they have one crazy condition. They demand a 5-on-5 throwdown, but our fighters can only be chosen from the squad that survived the previous bloody mountain clash. Vale gasps in shock. They specifically want the exact same guys who miraculously clashed with their elite combat unit at the mountain's base. Talk about holding a grudge. Vale immediately barks for his son. Suddenly, eager veterans start hyping themselves up to volunteer, but Adrien hilariously stops the hype train. "Chill out, guys. 2 spots are already taken." The Rangers freak out at his crazy confidence. They desperately remind the kid that this is literal suicide, but Adrien just flashes a cocky grin. "Sorry, boys, I'm the only one here who actually speaks their wild language." The desperate soldiers practically beg, "At least save one single spot for us." Adrien mercilessly rejects them. He definitely can't steal this epic chance away from Arwin, especially when she's practically vibrating with pure battle lust. He turns to Arwin asking if she's ready to smash some greenskins. She drops a deeply respectful bow. "I was born ready, my lord." Vale's jaw drops, asking where Adrien learned fluent Orcish. Apparently, Vale didn't even know these giant meatheads could talk. Adrien quickly, completely fabricates a lie, blaming it on intense studying. Reading Vale's conflicted face, Adrien quickly bursts his bubble. No talking wouldn't have stopped past massacres. This boss monster is just a total weirdo. Basically, only fancy orc nobles serving their big bad king can actually speak this ancient tongue, just like this muscle-bound captain. The big boss impatiently roars, demanding if Adrien is stepping up. Adrien smoothly yells back that he's on his way. Adrien seriously doubts all these crazy coincidences. The exact second he popped into this world, a rare elf ambassador practically spawned in the kingdom. And up north, the mythical orc king just randomly decided to reveal himself for the first time in 4 whole centuries. The massive gates crash down. 5 incredibly stressed human duelists dramatically step outside the safety of the castle walls. Adrien's brain is working overtime on this mystery, but he slaps himself out of it. Lore dropping can totally wait. Right now, it is time to throw some hands. Squaring up against the hulking beast, the orc glares down, asking if this puny human is seriously his challenger. Adrien smirks, asking if the big guy is disappointed. Surprisingly, the orc denies it, hyping Adrien up for having the most badass spirit out of all the humans present. A totally worthy opponent, the orc then creepy smiles, promising that Adrien's flesh will make an absolutely fantastic 5-star meal. Adrien mockingly bows his head, getting fully into his battle stance. He laughs internally. How hilariously pathetic is it that his first hater-free fanboy is literally a giant bloodthirsty orc? Vincent absolutely panics, screaming that the boss monster is way above Adrien's pay grade and begging to tag in. Mid-tantrum, a random grunt tries to slice Vincent in half. He comically leaps backward, dodging the massive blade by inches. On cue, the entire mob of green muscle glares down at the squishy humans, cracking their knuckles for a total beatdown. Adrien casually reminds his panicking squad that orcs don't do polite nightly duels. It is literally every man for himself. The battlefield instantly erupts into pure, unadulterated chaos, as both sides violently collide. Adrien launches an epic plunging attack, but the massive captain effortlessly swats him away like an annoying mosquito with his giant axe. The green giant trash talks, calling Adrien's physical strength totally pathetic. Smirking, Adrien cracks his neck, deciding playtime is officially over. Let's see who the weak one really is. Adrien's aura absolutely explodes. It is supercharged by the petty, localized resentment of hundreds of ghostly rangers looking for payback. He grins like an absolute maniac, flexing his insanely overpowered strength. He happily declares that transferring to this freezing winter castle was totally a 5-star life choice. Finished charging his ultimate move, Adrien politely thanks the beefy monster for patiently standing there. He immediately triggers the Hymn of Requiem. The once cocky orcs practically wet themselves as Adrien transforms into a literal sleep paralysis demon.